40 below zero, no furnace, no insulation, no electricity, just you, your family, and a frozen prairie that wants you dead. What do? You dig straight down into the earth. Sounds like a death sentence, right? It wasn't. It was genius. Here's how Native Americans engineered underground survival systems that kept entire families warm when the world above was trying to kill them. If this kind of history grabs you, hit subscribe, and I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is. Drop it in the comments. Now get comfortable, adjust that pillow, feel those blankets around you, because tonight we're going underground, and I'm going to show you why that was the smartest decision anyone ever made. You're about to wake up in a Mandan Earth Lodge, winter of 1750, give or take. You're a 7-year-old girl named Little Fawn, and right now 20 feet of snow is piled above your head. The smell hits you first. Smoke, not the harsh, choking kind that stings your eyes. Something softer. Cottonwood burning slow, mixed with something earthy. Like soil after rain, but warmer. Richer. It fills your nose and settles into your chest. Your eyes adjust to the darkness. You're lying on a fur blanket, bison hide, thick and heavy, the hair still on it. Pressed against your cheek, it feels almost alive. The warmth trapped in those fibres has been building all night. You sink into it. Above you, there's no ceiling. Not really. It's earth. Packed earth and sod. A foot thick, curving up and over you like the inside of something living. Grass roots dangle here and there, catching the firelight, swaying slightly in the moving air. And that air, it moves in ways you don't expect. There's a fire burning at the centre of the lodge, maybe 20 feet from where you lie. The flames are low, steady, not roaring, not crackling, just breathing. The heat reaches you in waves, gentle pulses that wash over your face. You're not cold. This is the first thing that surprises you. Outside, the world is frozen solid. 30 degrees below zero, the kind of cold that turns your breath into ice crystals before it leaves your lips, the kind of cold that kills a grown man in minutes if he's not careful. But here, 20 feet below the surface of the snow, wrapped in earth and timber and the accumulated heat of generations, you're warm enough to sit without a coat. Let that sink in. No furnace, no electricity, no natural gas pumping through pipes, just earth and wood and fire and thousands of years of accumulated knowledge about how to not die when winter comes screaming across the plains. Your name is Little Fawn. You've seen 7 winters, and this lodge, this dome of packed earth that looks like a hill from the outside, this is your home. You don't know the words engineering marvel. You don't know that architects in the future will study structures like this one, marvelling at the passive solar design, the managed airflow, the fuel efficiency that rivals anything built in the 21st century. You just know it's warm when everything outside is trying to kill you. That's enough. You sit up slowly. The fur falls away from your shoulders. Cold air touches your skin for just a moment. Then the heat from the fire finds you again. Your grandmother is already awake. She's been awake for hours, probably. Old women seem to need less sleep. They've seen enough winters to know what needs doing and when. Her name is Crow Feather, though you just call her grandmother, and she's stirring something in a clay pot. The pot is round-bottomed, reddish-brown, sitting in a cradle of hot stones near the fire's edge. Steam rises, your stomach tightens. You haven't eaten since yesterday evening, and your body remembers. Grandmother doesn't look up. She knows you're awake. She always knows. "There's no stop," she says. Her voice is low and steady, like the fire itself. You look toward the entrance tunnel. It's a long passage, maybe 10 feet, sloping upward and away from the lodge. From here you can only see darkness at its mouth, but you trust her. Grandmother knows things. She's been watching snow and sky and wind for 60 winters. "Can we go out?" you ask. She shakes her head. "Not yet." The drifts are too high. The men have to dig paths first. Until then, you're here in this warm darkness, waiting. You don't mind. The lodge is enormous, 60 feet across, give or take. From where you sit, you can see the 4 massive posts at the centre, cottonwood trunks, each one as thick as a man's body, forked at the top to support the central framework. They rise up into the smoky darkness, disappearing where the roof beams meet. Between those posts and the outer walls, the space is divided into sections: sleeping areas, storage spaces, work areas. Your family's sleeping platform is along the south wall, raised off the floor on a frame of willow branches covered with hides. Your mother and father are still sleeping. Your little brother is just a small lump under the furs beside them. 3 families share this lodge, 12 people, plus dogs, plus whatever horses need shelter from the worst storms. Sounds crowded. It's not really. There's room to move, to work, to be alone when you need to. The earth seems to swallow sound. Voices carry differently here than they do in open air. You can whisper and be heard by someone right beside you, but a conversation at the far end of the lodge becomes just a murmur, like water over stones. Grandmother pours something from the pot into a smaller bowl and hands it to you. Corn soup. Not fancy. Dried corn, pounded and boiled with water and a little fat, maybe some dried berries mixed in, but it's hot and it fills your belly, and the warmth spreads through you from the inside now, meeting the warmth from the fire, and suddenly you understand something you couldn't have put into words. This is what survival looks like. Not the dramatic kind, not fighting bears or escaping floods. Quieter than that, steadier. Every day, every hour, every decision is about staying alive, about keeping the cold on the outside, about making sure there's enough to eat today and tomorrow, and all the long days until spring finally comes. You're 7. You don't think about this in words, but you feel it. You know it in your bones. This lodge is not just shelter, it's a promise. A promise your grandmother made when she marked the circle in the prairie sod, when she directed the construction, when she taught the younger women which wood wouldn't rot and which angle would shed snow. A promise that her family would live through another winter. She's keeping that promise right now, stirring corn soup in the dark, waiting for the men to clear the paths. You finish your soup and set the bowl aside. Grandmother takes it without a word, adds it to the stack to be cleaned later. Everything has its place here. Everything has its purpose. Waste is death. Inefficiency is death. Only what works survives. The lodge works. It's worked for your people for generations upon generations. Your great-great-grandmother was born in a lodge like this one, her grandmother before her, and before that, so far back no one remembers the beginning. Women have been building these structures, teaching their daughters, keeping their families alive through the long white silence of winter. Your grandmother sees you watching the smoke rise toward the hole in the roof. The hole is smaller now, she says, covered with the bullboat. You know this. When snow falls heavy, someone climbs up on the roof and sets an old bullboat over the smoke hole. It's made of bison hide stretched over a willow frame, and it keeps most of the snow out while still letting smoke escape through gaps at the edges. The smoke knows where to go, grandmother says. You look at her. It rises because it's hot, she continues. The cold air comes in through the tunnel, low to the ground. The fire eats the cold air and turns it into heat. The heat rises, the smoke follows. It goes out. More cold comes in, around and around. She makes a circular motion with her hand. Self-feeding, she says, like breathing. You nod. You don't fully understand all of it, but you nod anyway. Grandmother knows things. If she says the smoke knows where to go, then the smoke knows where to go. Here's what's actually happening, though your grandmother wouldn't use these words. The entrance tunnel is the key to everything. It's not a door, it's a passage 6 to 12 feet long, opening to the south or east. Cold air creeps along this tunnel, entering low and moving toward the flames at the centre of the lodge. The fire consumes that air, heats it, sends it upward as smoke. The hotter the fire burns, the stronger the draft becomes. No fans, no bellows, no machinery of any kind, just convection doing what convection does. Your people have been using this system for longer than anyone can count. They didn't learn it from textbooks. They learned it from watching, from paying attention, from feeling the stillness of a dugout space, noticing the way air moves differently inside, discovering that a small fire can heat a large room if the walls are thick enough. The walls here are very thick. First, there's the wooden framework, the 4 central posts, cottonwood, a foot thick, forked at the top. Around the perimeter, smaller posts driven into the ground. Across these, willow branches and prairie grass woven into a dome. And then the critical layer, a foot of packed earth and sod heaped onto the roof until the lodge looks like a natural hill from outside. Grass grows on that roof in summer, bison graze on it. From a distance, the whole village looks like a collection of small hills you could walk right past without knowing families were living underneath, warm, safe, waiting for spring. This is what genius looks like. You don't know that word, but you know the thing it describes. The ability to see a problem and solve it so completely that the solution seems inevitable, obvious, like it couldn't have been any other way. The problem, winter, will kill you. The solution, go underground. Not completely underground, not like a burrow or a cave, just enough, just deep enough that the earth itself becomes your ally. Because here's the thing about soil, it doesn't change temperature quickly. 3 feet underground, the earth stays near 50 degrees Fahrenheit, even when the surface is frozen solid. Air, by contrast, loses heat instantly to wind. A fire in an open shelter might warm your face, but the cold steals that heat before it can settle into anything. But if you put that same fire in a room wrapped in earth, the soil itself becomes a battery. It absorbs warmth during the day, releases it slowly through the night, holds temperature steady when everything above ground is swinging between extremes. Modern architects call this thermal mass. Your grandmother calls it common sense. She's felt the principle at work every winter of her life. She's watched the way the lodge holds heat, the way it breathes, the way it keeps her family alive when everything outside is trying to kill them. She hands you another bowl of soup. You didn't ask for it. She just knew. Grandmother always knows. The morning passes slowly. Time moves differently underground. Without the sun to mark its passage, hours blend together. You know it's morning because you woke up. You know the men are digging because you can hear faint sounds from the entrance tunnel, voices and the scrape of wooden tools against packed snow. Your mother wakes, feeds your little brother, begins work on a pair of moccasins that need repair. Your father emerges from the sleeping platform, grunts a greeting, and disappears down the tunnel to help with the digging. You're left with the women. This is where the real work happens. Grandmother is checking the storage pits now. There are several dug into the floor of the lodge, each one lined with willow and grasses, each one holding something different. Dried corn in one, dried beans in another, wild turnips, sunflower seeds, dried meat pounded with berries and fat into cakes that will keep for months. This is how you survive. Not by hunting every day, though hunting helps when it's possible. Not by gathering alone, though gathering is essential in warm months. But by storing, by putting away enough in the good times to carry you through the bad. The good times feel very far away right now. You try to remember summer, the warmth of the sun on your face, the smell of growing things, the way the river sparkled in afternoon light. It seems like a dream, something that happened to someone else in some other world. This is your world now. Smoke and darkness and the patient accumulation of warmth, the sound of your grandmother's voice, the feel of bison hide against your cheek as you drift towards sleep. Outside, the snow is piled high. The men are still digging. The cold is still trying to kill you, but you're warm. That's everything. Grandmother sits beside you now. Her hands are busy with something, always busy, sorting dried berries or mending a torn piece of clothing or just moving, keeping blood flowing, keeping herself alive. When I was your age, she says, my grandmother told me stories. You look up. Stories are rare, stories are precious. In a world without books, without writing, stories are how knowledge passes from generation to generation. They're how you learn who you are and where you came from and what you must do to survive. What kind of stories, you ask? She smiles. Small, barely there, but you can see it in the firelight. Stories about Coyote Chief, she says. The trickster. He's always getting into trouble, always finding ways out. You know Coyote Chief. Everyone knows Coyote Chief. He's in every story, causing problems, solving them badly, making everyone laugh at his foolishness. Tell me one, you say. Grandmother shakes her head. Not yet. The stories are sacred. They can only be told in winter, when days are short and nights are long. They can only be told inside the lodge, in the warmth, in the safety. They have their own rules, their own rituals. Later, she says, when the others are awake, when we're all together, you can wait. You have nothing but time. She looks at the 4 posts rising into the darkness. The lodge is a living thing, she says. It breathes, it holds heat, it protects. You follow her gaze. The 4 posts, she continues, they hold up the sky. Just posts, massive cottonwood trunks planted at the centre, forked at the top. But when grandmother says they hold up the sky, you believe her. You can almost feel it, the weight of everything pressing down, the posts pushing back, keeping the world in balance. Our ancestors came from underground, she says. Long ago, they climbed up into the light, but we remember where we came from. We remember the darkness. We carry it with us. She touches the floor. This is why we build down, she says. This is why we go into the earth. The earth is our mother. She keeps us warm. She keeps us safe. You press your hand to the floor. It's cool to the touch, but not cold. Steady, patient, like grandmother herself. The entrance tunnel grows brighter. The men must be making progress. Soon you'll be able to go out to see the sun, to feel the cold on your face again, but not yet. For now, you're here, in the darkness, in the warmth, learning how to survive. Grandmother's hands keep moving. When I'm gone, she says, and you flinch because you don't want to think about that, this lodge will still be standing. Your mother will live here. You will live here when you're grown, with your own children. The lodge will remember me. The earth will remember. You don't know what to say. You're 7 winters old. Death is something that happens to other people. She sees your face and laughs, soft, gentle. Not yet, she says. I have many winters left, but someday, and when that day comes, you'll know what to do. You'll remember everything I taught you, every story, every song, every prayer. She picks up her sorting again. You'll build lodges of your own. You'll teach your daughters. The knowledge will live. That's what matters. The knowledge lives. The entrance tunnel is bright now, morning light spilling in. The men have broken through. Fresh air pushes into the lodge, cold and sharp, and for just a moment the warmth wavers. Then it settles again. The fire is still burning. The earth is still holding heat. The lodge is still breathing. Your father appears at the tunnel mouth, snow in his hair, grinning. Come see, he says. The world is white. You look at grandmother. She nods. You stand, pulling a bison robe around your shoulders, and walk toward the light. The tunnel is low, and you have to crouch. The packed earth is cold against your hands. Your breath comes in small clouds, and then you're out. The world is white. Sky pale blue, washed clean by the storm. Sun low, barely above the horizon, but blazing with cold, fierce light. Snow covers everything, drifted against the lodges, smoothed into waves and curves by wind. The other lodges are visible now, small hills of white with wisps of smoke rising from their peaks. The men have dug trenches through the snow, paths from lodge to lodge, paths to the storage racks and the frozen river beyond. They stand in those trenches now, leaning on their shovels, steam rising from their bodies. It's cold, genuinely cold. The air bites at your nose and cheeks, finds the gaps in your robe, reminds you why you need the lodge. But you're alive, warm at the core, even if your face is freezing. This is survival. Your people have done this for thousands of winters, watched the snow come and go, dug paths and told stories and kept the fires burning, outlasted everything the cold could throw at them, not by conquering winter, by collaborating with it, using soil and fire, using knowledge passed down through generations, using the wisdom of grandmothers who knew which wood wouldn't rot and which angle would shed snow and which prayers to say when raising the centre posts. You stand in the snow for a long moment, looking at your world. Then you turn and go back inside. Grandmother is waiting. There are stories to tell. The warmth wraps around you again as you descend back into the lodge. Your eyes take a moment to adjust. After the blinding white outside, the lodge feels darker than before, but it's a good darkness, a safe one, the kind that holds you instead of hiding things from you. Grandmother hasn't moved. She's still sitting by the fire, hands busy, always busy. But she's watching you, watching the way you shake snow from your robe, the way you settle back onto the sleeping platform, the way you pull the bison fur up around your shoulders. "Cold out there," you say. She nods. "Cold out there, warm in here." Simple words, but they mean everything. You look around the lodge again, really seeing it this time. Not just the space you live in, but the thing itself, the structure, the walls curving up and over, the posts at the centre, the way everything fits together. "Grandmother," you say, "how did you build this?" She stops sorting, looks at you. There's something in her eyes you haven't seen before. Pride, maybe. Or just the satisfaction of a question finally asked. "You want to know?" You nod. She sets aside the berries she's been sorting and shifts closer to you. The firelight plays across her face, deepening the lines there, making her look older and younger at the same time. "I didn't build this lodge," she says. "My mother did when I was about your age. But I helped, and I watched. And I remembered." She touches the floor. "It starts here," she says, "with the earth." You press your palm to the packed dirt, cool, solid, patient. "First, you choose your spot," Grandmother says. "Not just anywhere. You need to be close to water, but not so close that spring floods reach you. You need good drainage so rain doesn't pool. You need the entrance to face south or east so cold north winds don't blow straight in." She makes a sweeping gesture with her hand. "My mother walked this land for days before she decided, feeling the ground, watching where water flowed after storms, looking at where other lodges stood and where they didn't. Why didn't she just build where her mother's lodge was?" Grandmother smiles. "She did, mostly. But lodges don't last forever. The wood rots after 7, 8, 10 years. You have to rebuild. And when you rebuild, you think about everything again. What worked? What didn't? How to make it better?" She picks up a stick and draws in the dirt near the fire. A circle. Once you choose the spot, you mark the circle. My mother used a rope and a stake, one end tied to the stake at the centre, the other end held tight while she walked around, scratching a line in the prairie sod, 60 feet across this lodge. Some are smaller, some bigger, depends on how many families will share it. 60 feet. You try to picture it, that's longer than 10 of you lying head to toe. Then you dig, grandmother says. Not deep, maybe up to your knees, just enough to get below the frost line, to give the walls something to anchor against, to put you that much closer to the earth's warmth. She draws another circle inside the first one, smaller. The men help with the digging and with the posts, the big ones. She points toward the 4 central columns rising into the darkness. Cottonwood, you need trees that are straight and strong, a foot thick at least, and they have to be forked at the top like this. She makes a Y shape with her fingers. Why forked, you ask? For the beams to rest on, the beams that hold up the roof. If the post isn't forked, the beams slide off. Everything falls, so you search until you find the right trees. Sometimes that takes days. You look at the posts with new respect. Just finding them was work, cutting them down with stone axes, blow after blow after blow until the tree finally groaned and fell, then stripping the bark, hauling them here, sometimes for miles, dragging them across the prairie with ropes and muscle and sheer stubbornness. Digging holes deep enough to hold them, raising them upright, 10 men pulling on ropes while women steadied the base, getting them to stand straight, solid, ready to hold up the sky. 4 of them, each as thick as a man, each buried deep enough to stand for years. How long does all that take, you ask? The posts? 2 days just to find the right trees, another day to cut them down, 2 more to bring them back, half a day to raise them. She counts on her fingers. Almost a week, just for 4 posts, and that's if everything goes well. If an axe breaks, if someone gets hurt, if you pick a tree that turns out to be rotten inside, add more days. The men raise the big posts, grandmother says, but after that the work belongs to women. She says this like it's obvious, like it couldn't be any other way. The smaller posts go around the edge, 30, 40 of them, however many you need, driven into the ground in a circle. These don't have to be as thick, but they have to be strong. They hold the walls. She draws short lines around the edge of her dirt circle. Then comes the weaving. Her hands move as she talks, miming the motion. Willow branches. You collect them in summer when they're green and flexible. Bundle them, store them. When it's time to build, you soak them again so they bend without breaking. Then you weave them between the posts, around and around, building up the walls. Over the top too, curving in toward the centre, leaving a hole at the peak for smoke. That sounds hard, you say. It is hard. Your hands bleed. Your back aches. You work from sunrise until you can't see anymore, day after day. A week, sometimes longer, just for the weaving. She holds up her hands. Even in the dim light, you can see the calluses, the roughness, the strength built up over decades. See this scar? She points to a white line across her palm. From when I was learning, the willow slipped, caught my hand, tore right through, bled all over the branches. My mother told me to wrap it and keep working. That's mean, grandmother laughs. That's survival. You can't stop because you're hurt. Winter doesn't care about your hands. Winter comes whether you're ready or not, so you wrap it and you keep weaving. She flexes her fingers, showing you how they still move, still work, despite the scars. Every woman in this village has hands like mine. Every one of them built something, bled for it. That's what it costs to keep a family alive. But you do it because you have to, because winter is coming, because your family needs a place to be warm. She lowers her hands. After the willow comes the grass, prairie grass, thick bundles of it stuffed between the branches, filling every gap. This is the first layer of insulation, keeps the wind out, holds the heat in. You reach out and touch the wall nearest you. You can feel it now, the layers, the woven branches underneath, the grass packed tight, and over everything, the earth. Then the mud. Grandmother says. You mix earth with water until it's thick like porridge. You slather it over the grass, pressing it in, smoothing it out. This seals everything, makes it solid, makes it strong. And then the sod? She nods. Then the sod. The most important part. You cut squares of prairie, grass and roots and all, and you lay them over the mud layer. Thick, a foot thick at least. More if you can manage it. You pack it down, stamp on it, make sure there are no gaps. She looks up at the ceiling, the curve of earth above your heads. And then you wait. Wait for what? For the grass to grow, for the roots to spread, for the lodge to become part of the land again. She smiles at something you can't see. By the second summer, you can't tell where the prairie ends and the lodge begins. Grass covers everything, wildflowers bloom on the roof, birds nest in the sod, bison walk right over you grazing and they don't even know you're there. You try to imagine it. A whole village of lodges, invisible from a distance, just gentle hills in a sea of grass, smoke rising from what looks like solid ground, children's laughter coming from nowhere, the smell of cooking food drifting up from the earth itself. A village of ghosts, living in the land, part of the land. That's the point, Grandmother says, as if reading your thoughts. The lodge doesn't fight the land, it becomes the land. It hides in plain sight. Enemies can ride past and never know 100 people are living right under their feet. Has that happened? More than once. My grandmother told stories of war parties riding through, looking for our village, unable to find it even when they were standing on our roofs. They'd see the smoke and ride toward it, but when they got there, nothing. Just a hill, just grass. They'd look around, confused, and ride on. She chuckles, low and quiet. Sometimes our warriors would lie flat on the roofs, perfectly still, watching the enemy search for them. One time, a war party stopped to rest right on top of my grandmother's lodge. She could hear their voices through the sod, hear them wondering where all the people had gone. What did she do? Kept quiet, kept still, waited. Eventually they left and she climbed out and watched them disappear over the horizon, never even knew they were sitting on 100 families. She shakes her head at the memory of a memory. They thought we were spirits, vanished into the earth. In a way, they were right. The fire pops, a log settles, sending sparks spiralling upward. But the lodge is more than hiding, Grandmother says. It's living. Every part of it serves a purpose. Nothing is wasted. She points to the entrance tunnel. You know about the tunnel, how it brings cold air in low, feeds the fire, keeps the draft moving. But there's more. She stands slowly, her joints protesting, and walks toward the tunnel mouth. You follow. See how it slopes upward. That's not just for the air, it's for water too. In spring, when the snow melts, water tries to come in, but it can't flow uphill. The tunnel drains away from the lodge, not towards it. You hadn't noticed that, but now that she's pointed it out, you can see it, the slight incline barely visible, just enough to keep water out. And the length, she continues, 6 feet, 8 feet, sometimes 12. Why so long? You think about it. To keep the cold from getting in? Partly, but also this. She crouches at the tunnel entrance and sweeps her hand across the floor. Cold air is heavy. It settles. A long tunnel gives it room to settle before it reaches the main space. By the time air gets to the fire, it's already warmed a little, just from being inside. She stands again, brushing dirt from her knees. Everything connects. The tunnel feeds the fire heats the air, the hot air rises, the smoke goes out through the hole, the earth holds the warmth keeps you alive. Remove any piece and the whole thing fails. She walks back to her spot by the fire and sits down again. You settle beside her. Who figured all this out, you ask. She shrugs. Everyone. No one. It happened slowly, over many generations. Someone noticed that a dugout space stayed warmer than open ground. Someone else figured out that a fire in that space heated better than a fire outside. Someone figured out the tunnel. Someone figured out the sod. She picks up her sorting again, hands busy once more. Each generation learned from the one before, added a little, improved a little, passed it on to the next. 1,000 small discoveries made by 1,000 different people over more years than anyone can count. And you're passing it to me. She looks at you, really looks at you. Yes, and someday you'll pass it to your daughters, and they'll pass it to theirs. The knowledge doesn't belong to any one person. It belongs to everyone. It belongs to the future. You sit with that for a moment, the weight of it, the responsibility. Somewhere down the line, people you'll never meet will survive a winter because of what you teach your children. That's a lot to carry when you're 7 winters old. Grandmother must see something in your face, because she laughs softly. Don't worry, she says. You don't have to remember everything today. You have time. We have many winters ahead, you and I. Many lessons, many stories. She hands you a handful of dried berries. Eat. You'll need your strength. You pop a berry in your mouth. Juneberry, slightly sweet, slightly tart. One of the foods stored in those pits you never really thought about before. Picked last summer, dried in the sun, saved for this moment, this mouthful of sweetness in the middle of a frozen winter. Survival isn't one big thing. It's 1,000 small things, done right, done consistently, done because the people who came before you figured out what worked and made sure you knew it too. Grandmother, you say, can I help next time? Next time what? Next time someone builds a lodge. Can I help with the weaving? She studies you for a long moment, then she nods. When your cousin Riverstone builds her lodge next summer, you can help. Your fingers are small, good for tucking grass into tight spaces. You'll learn. You smile. It feels like a gift, like being let into a secret. But first, Grandmother says, you learn the prayers. Prayers? For the posts. When the centre posts are raised, there are words we say, songs we sing. We thank the cottonwood trees for giving their lives. We ask the earth to hold them steady. We call on our ancestors to bless the lodge and everyone who will live in it. She touches one of the central posts, runs her hand along the rough bark. This is not just building, it's ceremony. The lodge is sacred. It represents the world itself. The floor is the earth, the roof is the sky, the 4 posts are the 4 directions, the 4 corners of creation. When you live here, you live inside a prayer. You look around with new eyes, the dirt floor, the curved roof, the posts at the centre, not just a shelter anymore, a universe in miniature, a prayer made solid. The hole at the top, Grandmother says, pointing upward. That's where Tirawa looks down. The Creator, his eye watches over us. His breath is the smoke that rises. She's quiet for a moment, and below us, in the floor, the Sipapu. The what? A small hole. In some lodges, not all, there's a tiny hole dug into the floor. You can barely see it, but it's important. It's the place our ancestors came from. Long ago, before there was a world above, people lived below the earth, in darkness. One day, a young man found a way up, climbed through a hole into the light. Others followed, but not everyone. Some are still down there, waiting. She touches the floor again. The Sipapu reminds us, we came from the earth, we'll return to the earth. Everything we are, everything we have, it all comes from her. You press your palm to the ground, cool, solid, holding you up, holding everything up. So when we go underground to survive winter, you say slowly, working it out, we're going back to where we started. Grandmother's eyes crinkle at the corners. Smart girl. Yes, we go back to our mother. She keeps us safe until it's time to be born again. And in spring, when we climb the ladder back into the light, we're being born again. She nods. Every spring, new life. Every winter we return to the womb. It's been this way forever. It will be this way long after we're gone. The fire burns low. Grandmother adds another piece of wood and the flames leap up, sending shadows dancing across the walls. Outside, you know the men are still digging paths, still clearing snow, still doing the work that needs doing. But in here, in this warm darkness, time moves at its own pace. You're learning, not from books, not from schools, from an old woman with rough hands and a lifetime of winters in her eyes. From a tradition so old nobody knows when it started. This is how knowledge survives. Not carved in stone, not written on paper, passed from mouth to ear, from hand to hand, from grandmother to granddaughter, in the darkness of an earth lodge, while the world outside freezes solid. You think about all the grandmothers before your grandmother, all the granddaughters who sat where you're sitting now, asking the same questions, learning the same lessons. An unbroken chain stretching back into time so deep you can't see the bottom. Somewhere in that chain, someone figured out the first piece of this puzzle. Someone said, what if we dug down? And someone else said, what if we covered it with earth? And someone else said, what if the entrance faced away from the wind? Question by question, generation by generation. Until here you are, warm in a frozen winter, alive because 1,000 people you'll never know asked the right questions and passed down the answers. Your mother is awake now. She's nursing your little brother, rocking gently, humming a tune you half recognise. Your father has come back inside, stamping snow from his feet, blowing on his hands to warm them. One of the dogs has curled up near the fire, twitching in its sleep, dreaming of summer hunts. The lodge feels fuller now, more alive. 12 people sharing space, sharing warmth, sharing the slow rhythm of a winter day. The air smells like smoke and corn soup and the particular musty warmth of bison fur. Familiar smells, safe smells. Grandmother catches your eye and winks. Later, she says, when everyone is settled, when the sun goes down, the stories. You nod. You can wait. Outside, the cold is patient. It has been here forever. It will be here long after you're gone. But so will the lodges, so will the knowledge, so will the grandmothers teaching granddaughters how to survive. You pull the fur up around your shoulders and settle in. You have all winter. The day stretches out, slow and unhurried. That's the thing about winter underground. Time doesn't push you. There's no sun climbing the sky to remind you of passing hours. There's just the fire and the work and the people around you. Your father and 2 of your uncles have gone out again, checking the traps, grandmother said, hoping for rabbit, maybe fox, anything with meat on it and fur worth keeping. The paths through the snow are clear now. You watched the men disappear down one of them. Wrapped in bison robes so thick they looked like walking hills themselves. The cold swallowed them up quickly. One moment they were there, the next just empty white. Inside, the women work. Your mother is scraping a hide, deer, from a kill 3 weeks ago. The skin has been stretched on a frame near the wall, and she works at it with a bone scraper, pushing and pulling, removing the last bits of fat and membrane. Later she'll tan it with a mixture of brains and liver, work it soft, turn it into something your brother can wear. Your aunt is repairing a basket. The weave has come loose on one side, and she's threading new strips of willow through the old ones, her fingers moving quick and sure. Your grandmother is at the storage pits again. You watch her lift a cover made of woven grass and peer inside. The pit is maybe 2 feet across and deeper than your arm is long. Even from where you sit, you can see the pale yellow of dried corn packed tight, waiting. "Come here," she says. You get up and walk over. The floor is cold against your bare feet, but not painfully so, just cool, a reminder that the warmth here is borrowed, held, not given freely. Grandmother gestures for you to look. The pit is lined with willow shoots and dried grass. At the bottom, layers of corn. Not the fresh corn you remember from summer, bright and heavy with juice. This corn is hard, dried, shrunken, each kernel like a tiny stone. "We shelled this last fall," grandmother says, "dried it on the racks, stored it before the first snow." She reaches in and pulls out a handful, lets the kernels run through her fingers back into the pit. How much is left? She considers. Enough, if we're careful, if the winter doesn't drag too long. What if it does? She looks at you. Her face is calm, but something flickers in her eyes. A calculation, a weighing of possibilities. Then we eat less. Then we stretch what we have. Then we hope the men find meat. She replaces the cover, pressing down the edges to seal it tight. "This is why we work so hard in summer," she says. "This is why your mother's back aches from carrying corn to the drying racks. This is why your aunt's fingers bleed from shelling. Everything we do in the warm months is for this. For now. For the days when nothing grows and nothing moves and the only food is what you put away." She moves to the next pit. This one smells different when she lifts the cover. Sweeter. You lean in and see dried squash, sliced thin and curled like wood shavings. "Squash keeps," grandmother says. "Not as long as corn, but long enough. We eat this first, before it goes soft." Another pit holds beans. Another holds wild turnips, wrinkled and tough. Another holds sunflower seeds, thousands of them, grey-black and oily. And one, the biggest, holds meat. Dried meat, strips of buffalo hung in the sun last autumn until they turned hard as leather, some of it mixed with berries and fat pounded together into dense cakes that could last years if stored right. "Pemmican," grandmother says, though that's not your word for it. "Your grandfather taught me to make it. His mother taught him. Her mother taught her." She picks up one of the cakes. It's about the size of your hand, dense and dark. You can smell it now that she's holding it close, rich and fatty, with a hint of sweetness from the berries. "This is life," she says, "right here. Fat for warmth, meat for strength, berries for the blood, everything a body needs to survive when there's nothing else." She breaks off a tiny corner and hands it to you. You put it in your mouth and chew. The texture is strange, waxy almost, and then the fat starts to melt on your tongue and the flavour comes through. Meat and berry and something else, something smoky and wild. That taste, grandmother says, that's what keeps you walking when you can't walk anymore. That's what keeps you warm when the fire goes out. Never waste it. Never eat more than you need. She puts the cake back. We eat a little at a time. A piece this big, she makes a shape with her fingers, smaller than your fist, is enough for one person for one day. If they're not working hard, if they stay inside, stay warm, stay still. You think about that, one small piece, that's all. And you have to make what's in this pit last until spring. It always feels like not enough, Grandmother says, reading your face. Every winter I look at the stores and think, this won't be enough. We'll starve before the snow melts, but every spring we climb out alive. A little thinner maybe, a little tired, but alive. She closes the pit. The trick is not to panic. Not to eat too much when you're scared, not to eat too little when you're sad. Just steady, one day at a time, one meal at a time. Trust that you put enough away and don't waste what you have. Your stomach growls, Grandmother laughs. Not wasting means not starving. It doesn't mean going hungry. Come, we'll make something. She leads you to the fire pit at the centre of the lodge. The flames are low right now, just enough to take the edge off the cold. Your mother is still working on her hide, your aunt on her basket. Your grandmother picks up the clay pot and examines what's left inside from this morning. More corn, she decides, and some of the dried meat. A feast. It doesn't sound like a feast to you, but you're learning that words mean different things in winter. She reaches into a smaller pot, one that sits near the fire where the heat keeps it warm, and pulls out a handful of dried corn. Into the cooking pot it goes, along with water from a skin bag and a few strips of the dried meat torn into pieces. Where does the water come from, you ask? Grandmother points to a corner of the lodge. There's a pile of snow there, packed into a container made of rawhide. It's slowly melting, the water trickling down into another container below. We bring snow in and let it melt, or we chip ice from the river if the snow is dirty. Water is easy in winter. It's everywhere, just frozen. She stirs the pot, then settles it back among the hot stones near the fire's edge. Now we wait. You sit beside her. The fire crackles softly. Your mother's scraper makes a rhythmic shushing sound against the hide. Your aunt hums as she weaves. One of the dogs shifts in its sleep near the entrance tunnel. It's an old dog, grey around the muzzle, and it sleeps more than it used to, but it still serves a purpose. When strangers approach, it barks. When predators come near, it growls. Even sleeping, it's working. You watch the fire for a while. The flames dance, yellow and orange, casting moving shadows on the curved walls. How do you keep it going, you ask? The fire. All winter. Grandmother glances at the flames. You never let it die. Someone is always watching. Even at night, someone wakes up to add wood. If the fire goes out, you have to start again with friction sticks, and that takes time. Time when everyone is cold. She points to a pile near the wall, dried wood, some of it cottonwood, some willow. We collect all summer, every branch, every fallen tree, stack it, dry it, save it, and still by spring we're always running low. What do you do then? She smiles just a little. Buffalo chips. You wrinkle your nose. You know what she means. Dried buffalo dung, collected from the prairie, stored in piles. It burns. Not as hot as wood, not as clean, but it burns. Smells terrible at first, Grandmother admits, but you get used to it. And when the wood runs out, you burn what you have. Pride doesn't keep you warm. Grandmother, you say. What do you do? All day? She looks at you like you've asked a funny question. This, what we're doing now, cooking, mending, checking the stores, keeping the fire alive, looking after the little ones, planning what needs doing tomorrow. But that's not. You trail off. You're not sure what you were going to say. That's not enough. That's not interesting. That's not what you imagined grown-up life would be. Grandmother seems to understand anyway. You think winter is waiting, she says, just sitting here waiting for spring, but it's not. Every day has work, small work maybe, quiet work, but work that matters. She picks up a piece of clothing from a pile near her sleeping place, a moccasin worn thin at the toe. This needs patching. If I don't patch it, your uncle's foot gets cold. If his foot gets cold, he can't hunt. If he can't hunt, we don't eat, so I patch it. She pulls a bone needle from a pouch at her waist along with a thin strip of sinew. Everything connects. Every small task keeps something else from falling apart. The fire needs feeding. The food needs cooking. The clothes need mending. The children need watching. The sick need tending. The dogs need feeding. She starts stitching, quick and neat. The men go out. They hunt. They trap. They check the boundaries, they keep watch for enemies, but they can only do that because we're here, keeping everything else running. This lodge is a world, and someone has to take care of it. You watch her work. The needle moves in and out, closing the hole in the moccasin with tiny stitches. I want to help, you say. She pauses, looks at you. You are helping. You're learning. That's the most important work of all. She hands you a different moccasin, this one less worn but still in need of attention. See this seam? It's coming loose. Take the needle when I'm done and try to fix it. I'll show you the stitch. You nod, suddenly nervous. You've never done this before. What if you ruin it? You won't ruin it, Grandmother says, reading your thoughts again. And if you do, we'll fix it. That's how you learn. By trying, by failing, by trying again. The fire pops, the pot bubbles, the lodge fills with the smell of cooking food. Your mother finishes with the hide and stretches, pressing her hands to her lower back. She comes over to the fire, sits down beside you, runs her fingers through your hair. Learning to sew? She asks. Grandmother's teaching me. Your mother smiles. She taught me too, right here, in this spot. I must have made 100 mistakes before I got it right. 112, Grandmother says. I counted. They laugh. You laugh too, though you're not sure if it's a joke. The soup's ready, Grandmother says. She ladles it out into bowls, corn and meat swimming in thin broth. It doesn't look like much. It doesn't smell like the rich summer stews you remember. But it's hot. And it's food. And when you taste it, the warmth spreads through you like a blessing. You eat slowly. Everyone eats slowly. No one wastes a drop. In summer, your mother says, we eat until we're full. We eat until we can't eat anymore. We get fat like bears before the cold comes. Then we use that fat all winter, burning it off a little at a time. She pats her belly, which is thinner than you remember it being last fall. By spring, we're skinny again. Then summer comes and we start over. It sounds exhausting. It sounds hard. It sounds like a life lived on the edge, always saving for winter, always surviving until spring. But your mother doesn't seem unhappy about it. Neither does Grandmother. Neither does anyone here. This is just how it is, how it's always been. You finish your soup and hand the bowl back. The afternoon deepens. The light from the entrance tunnel fades as clouds roll in outside. You can hear the wind picking up, a low moan that seems to come from everywhere at once. More snow coming, Grandmother says. No one seems worried. More snow is just more snow. The lodge will hold, the fire will burn, the food will last. You pick up the moccasin Grandmother gave you and study the seam. The stitches have come loose near the heel, leaving a gap where cold could get in. You thread the needle the way she showed you, sinew slick between your fingers. The first stitch is crooked. You pull it out and try again. The second is better. Not good, but better. By the fifth, you've found a rhythm. In, through, pull tight. In, through, pull tight. Grandmother watches without commenting. Your mother has gone back to her hide work. Your aunt is now helping your little brother practice standing, holding his hands while he wobbles on unsteady legs. The fire burns low and steady. The wind howls outside. Snow begins to fall again. You can hear it somehow, a soft hissing sound against the sod roof. and you stitch. In, through, pull tight. One small task, one small contribution, one stitch in the larger work of staying alive. The men come back just before dark. You hear them before you see them. Voices in the entrance tunnel, the scuffle of feet, the thump of something heavy being set down. They push through into the main space, bringing cold air and the smell of snow with them. Your father first, then your uncles, stamping their feet, shaking ice from their robes. Their faces are red from the wind. Ice clings to their eyebrows, their beards. They've caught 2 rabbits, small ones, lean from winter, but meat is meat. Your aunt takes them immediately, already planning how to stretch them into meals. Rabbit stew. Rabbit dried for later, the skins scraped clean and saved. Traps are holding, your father says. He comes to the fire, holds his hands out to warm them. His fingers are stiff, slow to close. Might get more tomorrow if the weather holds. Wind's picking up, grandmother says. Might be a storm, might be. He shrugs. We'll see. Your mother brings him a bowl of the corn soup, still warm from the pot. He drinks it in long gulps, not bothering with a spoon. When he's done, the colour starts coming back to his cheeks. How far did you go? You ask. To the river, past the old camp, maybe 5 miles. 5 miles, in snow up to his waist, in cold that could kill him if he stopped moving, and then 5 miles back, with rabbit carcasses frozen solid in his pack. He says it like it's nothing, like it's just what you do. He doesn't seem worried about the coming storm either. None of them do. A storm is coming, maybe. The traps might fail. The food might run short. These are just facts, not fears. Things to be dealt with when they happen. You finish the seam on the moccasin and hold it up. Grandmother inspects it, tugs at the stitches, runs her finger along the line. Good, she says, just that, good. But the way she says it, you know it means more. Your father sees what you're holding. Making moccasins now? Just fixing, you say. Grandmother's teaching me. He nods. Good skill to have. Feet get cold out there. Good moccasins can mean the difference between coming home and not. He says it simply, without drama, but you understand. Out there, in the frozen world above, everything matters. Every stitch, every piece of dried meat, every decision, life and death balance on details. In here, in the warmth, you learn those details one at a time. The evening comes soft and slow. More soup. The rabbit will be saved for tomorrow, stretched into something that feeds more people. For now, corn and dried squash, boiled together until soft. The dogs are fed scraps. They curl up near the fire, warm and content. The children are put to bed. Your little brother fusses until your mother sings to him, then drops off like a stone. And then finally the adults settle. The work is done. The day is over. The lodge is quiet, except for the wind outside and the soft crackling of the fire. Your father and uncles sit together, passing a pipe between them, the smoke rising to join the wood smoke above. Your mother leans against your father's shoulder, eyes half closed. Your aunt finishes feeding the dogs and settles near them, letting their warmth add to her own. You're tired. Not the deep tired of hard work, but the gentle tired of a long day, a full belly, a safe place. Your eyes want to close. But then grandmother reaches into the pouch at her belt and pulls out something you haven't seen before, a pipe of her own, long-stemmed, carved from red stone, dark with age and use. She holds it carefully, reverently, like it contains something precious. Now, she says. The stories. Your tiredness vanishes. Everyone shifts, turning toward her. Even the men lower their pipe and fall silent. Even the dogs seem to listen, ears pricked forward in the flickering light. This is what winter nights are for. This is why the days are short and the nights are long. Not punishment, but gift. Time for teaching. Time for remembering. Time for the old words that carry knowledge across the generations. Grandmother fills her pipe with something from a small pouch. Dried leaves. Crushed fine. She lights it with a stick from the fire, draws in a long breath and lets the smoke drift upward. Then she begins to speak. Her voice changes when she tells stories, drops lower, finds a rhythm, becomes something older than herself. The fire burns low, everyone gathers close, and the first story rises like smoke into the darkness above. Long ago, Grandmother says, before there was a world above, there was only darkness. Her voice has changed, dropped lower, found a rhythm that pulls you in like water pulling at your ankles. The fire seems to dim as she speaks, as if even the flames are listening. The people lived below, under the earth, under the lakes and rivers and stone. They lived in darkness, and they did not know there was anything else. They thought the darkness was all there was, all there had ever been, all there would ever be. She rocks slightly as she speaks. Forward and back, forward and back. They had fire down there, small fires fed by things that grew in the dark. They had food, strange food, things we can't imagine now. They had each other, they had life, but they had no light, no sun, no moon, no stars, just the endless, endless dark. The fire pops. Nobody moves. Your little cousin has stopped squirming and sits perfectly still. One day, a young man was walking in the darkness. His name is lost now. We don't know what they called him, but he was restless. He was the kind who always wanted to see what was around the next corner, over the next hill. Only there were no corners, no hills, just darkness in every direction. Grandmother's hands move as she speaks, tracing shapes in the air that might be tunnels, might be nothing. He walked and walked, always looking for something, though he didn't know what. His feet knew the path, his hands felt the walls, and then one day his hand touched something different. Not stone, not soil, something alive. She pauses, lets the silence build, lets you feel the young man's confusion, his wonder. A vine growing upward into the black. Where did it come from? Where did it go? The young man didn't know, but he did the only thing a restless person can do. He grabbed the vine and climbed. You realize you're holding your breath, higher and higher, hand over hand. The vine was strong and it held him. The darkness was thick, but he pushed through it. His arms ached, his fingers bled, but he climbed because something in him needed to know what was at the top. Grandmother mimes the climbing. Her old hands grasp at invisible rungs, pulling herself upward in her seat, and then the darkness began to change. It wasn't black anymore, it was grey, and the grey grew lighter and lighter still, until the young man put his hand up and felt nothing. No ceiling, no stone, just space, open space. She opens her hands wide. He pushed through into a world he had never imagined. Light, real light, so bright it burned his eyes. He had to close them, had to turn away. When he finally looked again, he saw sky, he saw grass, he saw water running in rivers, sparkling in the sun. He saw clouds. He saw colour. He saw everything. The firelight dances on her face. In that moment she looks young, young and full of wonder. The young man stood there, blinking, weeping, unable to believe what he was seeing, the world above. It existed. It had been there all along, right above them, and no one had known. You lean forward. You know this story. You've heard pieces of it before, fragments your mother mentioned, things whispered by cousins, but you've never heard it told like this. Never felt it settle into your bones like warmth from a fire. The young man went back down, Grandmother continues, back into the darkness. He could have stayed. He could have kept the light for himself, but he didn't. He remembered his family, his friends, everyone he had left behind. She looks around the lodge, her gaze touching each face. He climbed back down that vine, into the dark, and he told everyone what he had found. A world above, light and warmth and growing things, food that grew in the open, water that fell from the sky, a place where you could see forever. Her voice drops to almost a whisper, and the people began to climb. She holds up her hands, counting on her fingers. One by one, family by family, the young ones first, then the old ones, up the vine into the light. Some were scared, some didn't want to leave, but most climbed, because how do you stay in darkness once you know there's light? She lets her hands fall. But there was a woman, a large woman, heavy with child. She had been warned not to climb. The vine was getting worn. It had carried so many people. Her weight might be too much, but she wanted to see the world above. She wanted her baby to be born in the light, not the dark. She wanted what everyone else had. You hold your breath. You know something bad is coming. Her family begged her to wait. "Let us find another way," they said. "Let us strengthen the vine." But she couldn't wait. She was scared that the hole would close, that the light would disappear, that she would be left behind forever. Grandmother's voice tightens. She climbed, and the vine broke. The fire crackles in the silence. A log shifts, sending up a small fountain of sparks. Half the people were above, half were still below, and now the path between them was gone. The woman fell back into the darkness. The vine was destroyed, the hole above closed over, and the people below had to stay there forever. Nobody speaks, even the dogs are quiet. Some say you can still hear them sometimes when you put your ear to the ground, voices far below, waiting, hoping, still believing that someday, somehow the vine will grow back, the path will reopen, and they'll finally climb into the light. Grandmother touches the floor of the lodge. That is why we go into the earth in winter. We remember where we came from. We remember those who are still below. And when we climb out in spring, up our ladders, through our smoke holes, into the sunlight, she looks at you. We honour the ones who made it through, and we mourn the ones who didn't. Nobody speaks for a long moment. You think about that. The people below, still there in the darkness, waiting. When you lie in this lodge, wrapped in earth, are you closer to them? Can they feel you there, just above them, separated by stone and soil and thousands of years? It's a strange thought, but strangely comforting. Now, Grandmother says, and her voice lightens like clouds parting. A different story. You've been good today. You deserve Coyote. Your father groans, your uncles laugh, even your mother smiles, shaking her head. "What?" Grandmother says, pretending offence. "Everyone loves Coyote. Coyote is trouble," your father says. "Every time you tell Coyote stories, the children try to trick each other for days." "That's how they learn," Grandmother says. "Better to learn from Coyote than from real mistakes." "The real mistakes hurt less," your uncle mutters. More laughter. The mood in the lodge has shifted. The creation story was heavy, sacred. This is something else, something lighter. Coyote is a lesson, Grandmother says, settling back. The same thing as trouble sometimes. She refills her pipe with dried leaves. Lights it from a stick, draws smoke. "Coyote was hungry," she begins. "This story is different. You can tell from the first words." Her voice is playful now, dancing. Coyote was always hungry. He woke up hungry. He went to sleep hungry. He dreamed about food, and when he woke up, his stomach was growling at him like an enemy. He thought about food when he walked. He thought about food when he talked. He thought about food when he should have been thinking about anything else. Sounds like your uncle, your mother whispers to you. Your uncle pretends not to hear, but his mouth twitches. One day, Coyote was walking by the river and he saw the ducks, fat ducks, the fattest he'd ever seen, floating on the water like delicious clouds. They had been eating well all summer. They were practically round. Grandmother puffs out her cheeks, making herself look round. Coyote wanted those ducks more than he had ever wanted anything. More than he wanted water when he was thirsty. More than he wanted shade when he was hot. More than he wanted anything in the whole world. She leans forward conspiratorially, but the ducks were smart, smarter than Coyote, though he'd never admit it. They knew him, they knew his tricks. They stayed in the middle of the river where he couldn't reach them, and they laughed at him, quack, quack, quack. They were laughing. She makes duck sounds. The children giggle. This made Coyote angry, and when Coyote gets angry, he gets tricky. He sat on the bank and thought and thought and thought some more. His stomach growled the whole time, which made thinking hard, but finally he had an idea. Grandmother acts it out as she speaks. Her eyes get big with wanting. Her tongue licks her lips. She becomes Coyote, hungry and scheming. But the ducks were smart. They knew Coyote. They stayed in the middle of the river where he couldn't reach them, so Coyote had to think. She taps her head. Coyote thought and thought, and then he had an idea. A sneaky, tricky, very Coyote idea. She pauses for effect. He went upstream, where the ducks couldn't see him, and he got into the water. Slowly, quietly. Just his nose sticking up above the surface. The rest of him was underwater, floating, letting the current carry him. Like a log, your father says. He's heard this one before, but he's smiling. Exactly like a log, just a log floating down the river, nothing to worry about, nothing to be scared of. The ducks saw the log coming, but why would they be afraid of a log? They went back to their eating, and their quacking, and their floating. You can picture it, Coyote's pointed nose poking above the surface, his eyes just below the waterline, watching, the ducks completely unaware. Closer and closer he floated, inch by inch, duck by duck, and when he was right in the middle of all those fat, delicious birds, he exploded out of the water. Grandmother jumps and everyone startles. He grabbed 3 of them, 1 in each paw and 1 in his mouth. 3? Your little cousin asks from her mother's lap. She's fully awake now, eyes wide. 3. Grandmother confirms. Coyote was greedy. Remember that. It's important. She continues. Now Coyote had 3 ducks. He was so happy. He ran to the shore, water dripping everywhere, and built a fire right there on the bank. He was going to cook those ducks and eat until his belly burst. That's a lot of duck, your uncle says. Coyote thought he could handle it. That's part of the problem. Grandmother's face shifts, a knowing look. But while the ducks were cooking, while the fat was dripping into the fire and making it sizzle, Coyote got bored. He started looking around, and on the other side of the river he saw something that made him forget all about food. What? Your cousin demands. Beautiful women, 3 of them, walking along the far bank, laughing and talking, not paying any attention to him. More laughter from the adults. Your mother rolls her eyes so hard you're afraid they'll get stuck. Coyote wanted to go talk to those women. He wanted to show off. He wanted to tell them about his amazing trick with the ducks, but he didn't want to leave his dinner unguarded. What if someone stole it while he was gone? She shrugs. So Coyote made a plan. A stupid plan, but Coyote thought it was brilliant. What did he do? Your cousin breathes. He told his rear end to watch the ducks. You giggle. You can't help it. The adults are laughing too. He said, rear end, you stay here. You watch these ducks. If anyone comes to steal them, you warn me. Make noise. Get my attention. I'm counting on you. Grandmother makes a serious, important face, and his rear end said, okay, Coyote, I will watch, I will guard, I won't let you down. She pretends to be the rear end now, nodding solemnly, full of duty. So Coyote went to talk to the women. He swam across the river. He walked up to them and started bragging about how clever he was, how he had tricked the ducks, how he was the best hunter in all the land. The women pretended to be impressed because that's what you do when a fool is bragging. Your mother snorts. Meanwhile, back at the fire, something was happening. Grandmother's voice drops low. A wolf came by. A big wolf, hungry like everyone is hungry in winter. The wolf saw the ducks cooking on the fire. 3 fat ducks, sizzling, smelling delicious. The wolf looked around, no one watching, at least no one with teeth. The rear end, your cousin says, the rear end tried. It really tried. When the wolf started creeping closer, the rear end made noises, loud noises. Grandmother makes a sound, a very specific sound. Everyone bursts out laughing. But Coyote was too far away. He was on the other side of the river, talking, not listening to anything except his own voice. He didn't hear the warning. She shakes her head sadly. And by the time he came back, swimming across the river, running up the bank, his mouth already watering for duck dinner, she spreads her hands. The wolf had eaten all 3 ducks, every last bite, nothing left but bones and grease. No, your cousin wails. Yes, 3 fat ducks, gone. What did Coyote do? What do you think Coyote did? He was furious. He yelled, he screamed, he jumped up and down, and then he turned to his rear end and said, Grandmother puts on an angry voice. You were supposed to watch. You were supposed to warn me. This is your fault. She switches to a quieter, hurt voice. And his rear end said, I tried to warn you. I made all the noise I could. You're the one who didn't listen. You're the one who went chasing after women when you had perfectly good ducks right here. Grandmother shrugs. But Coyote didn't want to hear that. Coyote didn't want to admit he was wrong. So he punished his rear end instead. How? Your cousin asks, though she probably knows. He sat on the fire. Gasps from the children, howls of laughter from the adults. Right on the coals. And that is why coyotes have bald spots on their bottoms to this very day. Because of one greedy, vain, foolish coyote who couldn't admit his own mistakes. She sits back, satisfied, and takes a long draw from her pipe. But what's the lesson, you ask? Grandmother looks at you with approval. Most children just laugh at the story. You want to understand it. What do you think the lesson is? You consider Coyote was greedy. Coyote got distracted. Coyote blamed someone else for his own mistake. Don't be greedy. That's one lesson. Don't get distracted when you have something important to watch. Another good one. Don't blame others when it's your own fault. Grandmother nods. All of those, and one more. Can you think of it? You try. You run through the story again in your mind. Coyote floating in the river, Coyote catching ducks, Coyote leaving to chase something else when he already had what he needed. He already had food, you say slowly. He caught the ducks. He had enough, but he wanted more. He wanted the women too, and because he wanted more than he needed, he lost everything. Grandmother's smile spreads across her face like sunrise. Smart girl. She reaches over and taps your knee. In winter, that's the most important lesson. You have what you have. You saved what you saved. Don't go chasing something else and leave your food unguarded. Don't let wanting more make you lose what's already yours. You think about the storage pits, the careful rationing, the discipline of eating just enough and no more. Coyote stories are funny, but they're not just funny. They're warnings wrapped in laughter, ways of teaching without lecturing. You remember them because they make you smile, and in the remembering, the lessons stick. Another one, your cousin begs. Please. Grandmother shakes her head. Tomorrow, stories are like food, a little at a time. Too much at once makes you sick. Your cousin pouts, but doesn't argue. The fire has burned even lower now. The lodge is darker, the shadows deeper. Outside, the wind has died down. The storm that was coming must have passed to the north. Your father stands, stretches, adds another log to the fire. The flames leap up briefly, then settle into their slow burn. Time for sleep, your mother says. She collects your brother, who fell asleep in her lap during the coyote story. Your aunt guides your cousin back to their sleeping area. Your uncles are already settling in, pulling furs over themselves, turning their backs to the light. You don't want to sleep. You want more stories. You want to sit here by the fire with grandmother forever, listening to the old words, learning the old lessons. But your body is tired. Your eyes are heavy. The warmth of the lodge presses down on you like a blanket. Grandmother sees you fighting it. Sleep is part of survival too, she says. You rest now. Tomorrow there's more to learn, more to do. The stories will wait. You stand, legs stiff from sitting, and make your way to your sleeping platform. The bison fur welcomes you back, soft and warm and smelling of smoke and earth. Your mother tucks the edges around you, smooths your hair back from your face. Good dreams, she whispers. You close your eyes. The fire crackles. Grandmother hums something low and tuneless. Someone coughs. A dog sighs in its sleep. The sounds of your family. The sounds of safety. You think about the story. The people below, still waiting in darkness. The vine that broke. The woman who wanted light so badly she destroyed the path for everyone behind her. And Coyote, sitting on the fire because he couldn't accept his own fault. The stories swim together in your mind, mixing, merging. You dream of climbing, a vine that stretches up into nothing, your hands grasping, pulling, darkness below, light above, the fear of falling, the hope of reaching, and then you're through, breaking into the light, a world so bright it hurts. You wake once in the night. The lodge is dark except for the glow of the fire, banked low but still alive. Someone is sitting beside it. Grandmother, you think, though you can't be sure, just a shape against the dim light, watching, keeping the fire burning, making sure the warmth holds until morning. You close your eyes again. When you wake the second time, it's morning. Grey light seeps in through the entrance tunnel. The fire has been built back up. The pot is on the stones, steam rising. Another day. You stretch under the furs, not quite ready to leave their warmth. Your body aches a little from yesterday's sitting. Your fingers are sore from the stitching, but you're alive. You're warm. You're here. The lodge breathes around you, earth and timber and fire and family. Grandmother is already up, already working. She glances your way and nods. More to learn today, she says. You smile. You wouldn't have it any other way. Days pass. You lose count of them after a while. In the lodge, time moves like honey, slow, thick. One day bleeds into the next. The storm came and went. 3 days of wind so fierce you could hear it screaming even through the sod. Snow piled so high the men couldn't dig out for 2 days after it stopped. But the lodge held. The fire burned. The food lasted. Now the weather has calmed. Cold, still. bitter cold that makes your lungs ache when you breathe. But the wind is gone and the sky is clear, and your father has gone out to check the traps again. You're sitting with grandmother near the fire. Your fingers are getting better at the stitching. You've repaired 3 moccasins now, and the last one was almost good. Almost. Grandmother, you say, are we the only ones who live like this? She looks up from her work. Like what? Underground in the earth. Are other people above ground all winter, freezing? She smiles. It's the smile she gets when you ask a question she's been waiting for. We are not the only ones, not even close. She sets down her sewing and turns to face you fully. Far to the west, beyond the mountains, there are other peoples. They live near rivers that freeze solid in winter, rivers that run through deep valleys where the cold settles like water in a bowl. Those people faced the same problem we did, winter that kills, cold that doesn't forgive. What did they do? The same thing we did. They dug. She draws a shape in the ash near the fire. A circle, but deeper than the one she drew when explaining your lodge. Their houses are called pit houses, different from ours, but the idea is the same. Go down, let the earth protect you. You lean closer. They dig deeper than we do, much deeper, 6 feet down, sometimes more, deep enough that a grown man standing in the bottom can barely see over the edge. 6 feet. You try to picture it. A hole so deep your father would disappear into it. And the roof goes over the top? Yes, but here's where it gets different. She draws lines coming up from the edges of the circle, meeting at a point in the middle. Their roofs are cone-shaped, poles leaning in from every direction, meeting at the top. They cover it with bark, then grass, then earth, like us. But the entrance, she taps the peak of her drawing. Oh, the entrance is at the top. The top? She nods. They climb down into their houses, through the smoke hole. You stare at her. That sounds insane. That sounds dangerous. How? A ladder, a log with notches cut into it, leaning against the inside wall. You climb down the ladder to get in. You climb up to get out. The same hole that lets smoke escape is the door. You try to imagine it, descending into darkness, feet finding notches, hands gripping rough wood, the smell of smoke rising past you as you go down, the warmth hitting your face from below. But the smoke... You hold your breath at the top. Or you go quick. It's not so bad once you're inside. The smoke rises, goes out. You come down below it. My grandmother said it was like diving into a lake, except instead of water, you're diving through smoke into warmth. She watches you working this out. Think about it, she says. If the entrance is at the top, where does cold air come in? You frown. Cold air is heavy. It sinks. It pools at the bottom of things. If the door is at the top. It doesn't, you say slowly. Cold air can't climb up. Exactly. In our lodge, we need the long tunnel to control the cold air. It comes in low, feeds the fire, rises as heat. But in their houses, cold air barely gets in at all. The entrance is above the warm air. The warm air stays trapped inside like water in a bowl turned upside down. That's clever. Different, but clever. My grandmother said those pit houses were dark. Darker than ours. The only light came from the fire and from the smoke hole above. When you looked up from inside, you could see a circle of sky. Just that one circle. Stars at night, blue in the day, like looking at the world through a tunnel. Did she like it? Grandmother tilts her head, considering. She said it made her feel safe, hidden, like nothing could find her down there, but also trapped sometimes. When you can only get out by climbing, you think about climbing. What if there's a fire? What if someone hostile is waiting above? What if the ladder breaks? She shrugs. Every choice has costs. Our long tunnels can fill with snow or flood with water. Their top entrances can be blocked or guarded by enemies. No perfect answer, just different answers. Then why don't we build like that? Grandmother shrugs. Different land, different trees, different traditions. Our lodges hold more people, 20, 30, sometimes more. Their pit houses are smaller, one family, maybe two. They don't need as much space because they don't farm like we do. They fish, they hunt, they move more. She draws another shape beside the first. Later, they learned to add side entrances too. Tunnels, like ours, dug through the wall near the bottom. Some houses had both. A ladder through the smoke hole for quick trips in and out. A tunnel for bringing in big loads, for letting dogs in and out, for times when smoke was thick. Did they figure that out from us? Maybe. Or maybe they figured it out on their own. People trade ideas along with goods. When someone visits and sees a better way, they bring it home. When we send traders west, they come back with stories, new ways of doing things. Sometimes we try them, sometimes we don't. She returns to her sewing, fingers moving automatically. The point is, everyone who lives where winter bites found the same answer. Go into the earth, let her warmth protect you. The details are different, the shapes are different, but the truth is the same. You sit with that for a while, somewhere far away, in valleys you've never seen, beside rivers you'll never fish. Other children are sitting with their grandmothers, warm and safe, learning their own ways of staying alive. The same problem, different solutions, all of them working. What about the fire, you ask? If the entrance is at the top, how do they keep drafts off the flames? Grandmother's eyes light up. Another good question. They build a wall. Inside, between the entrance and the hearth. A low wall, stone or wood, just tall enough to catch the cold air that does get in. She picks up a small stone from near the fire and sets it upright in her palm. When you climb down the ladder, you bring some cold with you. It clings to your body, your clothes. When you step off the ladder, it falls off you, sinks to the floor, wants to flow toward the fire because that's where the air is being drawn. She blows gently across her palm, and you can almost see the invisible current she's describing. The wall catches it, stops it, forces it to go around the sides. By the time the air reaches the fire, it's mixed with warmer air. It's not a shock anymore. The fire doesn't stutter. She mimes the movement with her hands, air falling, hitting an obstacle, flowing around it like water around a rock. They call it a deflector. It deflects the cold away from the flames. Without it, every time someone enters, the fire gutters, sputters, tries to go out. With it, the fire burns steady no matter how many people come and go. A deflector, you file that word away. Our tunnel does the same thing, you realise. Gives the cold air a path that doesn't go straight to the fire. Now you're thinking. Grandmother taps her temple. Same problem, different solution, but the thinking behind it is the same. How do we control the cold air? How do we make it go where we want instead of where it wants? Did anyone ever build a lodge with both, a tunnel and a roof entrance? Some did. Later, the best ideas spread. When traders came, they saw what worked and brought those ideas home. Some pit houses ended up with side tunnels added, just like ours, not for the cold air so much, more for convenience, easier to haul wood in, easier to let dogs in and out, easier to escape if someone blocks the top. She pauses. That's how knowledge grows. Someone tries something. It works or it doesn't. If it works, someone else sees it, tries it their way, makes it better or makes it worse. The good ideas survive. The bad ones get forgotten. Like the stories, you say. The good stories get passed down. The bad ones disappear. Grandmother gives you a look you're starting to recognise. Pride mixed with something else. Satisfaction, maybe, that her teaching is taking root. Exactly like the stories. Have you ever seen one? A pit house? Grandmother shakes her head. No, but my grandmother did. When she was young, before I was born, she travelled west with a trading party, spent a winter with the river people, came back with stories. Her voice goes soft. She said climbing down into the earth felt like being swallowed, like the world above disappeared, just gone, nothing but the pit and the fire and the family gathered around it. She said it was the warmest she'd ever been. Or warmer than here? Different warm, closer, smaller. The earth pressed in on all sides. She said you could feel it holding you. You look around your lodge, big, open, room to move, to work, to be apart from each other when you need to. A pit house sounds cramped by comparison, but also cozy, like being held. She missed it when she came home, Grandmother says. For a while, then she got used to our ways again, but she never forgot. The fire pops. Someone coughs on the other side of the lodge. Your aunt is humming as she grinds corn, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. There are others too, Grandmother says. To the south, in the desert. People live underground in the desert. The desert is cold at night. Colder than people think. The heat goes away when the sun sets and there's nothing to hold it. By morning, water freezes, and in winter it snows in the high deserts. Not like here, but enough to kill you if you're not ready. She draws in the ash again. This time, not a pit. Something different. Lines like cliffs. Boxes stacked on boxes. And the summer sun is brutal, hot enough to cook you if you stand in it too long. So what do you do when it's too hot above and too cold above, but the ground stays the same? You go into the ground. You go into the ground, but these people, they found something special. Cliffs. Huge stone cliffs with alcoves already carved by wind and water. Caves, almost, but open at the front. Shaded from the summer sun, sheltered from the winter wind. She adds more lines to her drawing, walls inside the alcoves, rooms within rooms. The southern people built their homes inside these alcoves, stone upon stone, walls made of rock held together with mud, rooms stacked on rooms, whole villages tucked into the sides of cliffs, hundreds of feet above the valley floor. That sounds impossible. Villages on cliffs? How do they get in? Ladders, ropes, handholds and toe holds cut into the rock face. You have to climb to reach them. Long climbs sometimes, dangerous climbs. If you fall, she doesn't finish. She doesn't need to. Why would anyone live like that? Because it works, because the cliff face keeps them warm in winter and cool in summer, because the rock is their wall, their roof, their fortress. The alcove does most of the work. They just had to add the rooms inside. She looks up at you. And because it's safe, think about it. You're high up. You can see enemies coming from miles away. And if they do come, what can they do? Climb, one by one, up the cliff face while you wait at the top with stones to throw down. You imagine it. Warriors trying to scale a cliff while people above drop rocks on their heads. They'd be stupid to try, you say. They'd be dead to try. So nobody tries. The cliff people live in peace because attacking them is suicide. They pull up their ladders at night. They sleep safe. No walls to build, no guards to post. The cliff itself is the guard. You chew on that for a while. Do they have fires up in the cliffs? Small ones. The rock holds heat like our earth does. In summer, the stone stays cool because the alcove faces the right direction. In winter, a small fire warms the whole room, and the rock keeps that warmth long after the fire dies down. They burn less wood than we do. Less fuel needed. That's smart. They've had a long time to figure it out. Hundreds of years. Thousands, maybe. Plenty of time to make mistakes and learn from them. She picks up a piece of dried meat, tears it in half, hands you a piece. Everywhere you go, people find a way. They look at what the land gives them and they use it. We have prairie and sod and cottonwood trees. The river people have their valleys and their deep pits. The cliff People have their rock, different materials, different designs, same idea. You chew the meat slowly. It's tough, salty, familiar. How many peoples are there in the world? Grandmother laughs softly. More than you can count, more than anyone can count, spread across the land in every direction. Some we trade with, some we've never met, some we've heard of only in stories passed down so long nobody knows if they're real anymore. She finishes her piece of meat, wipes her fingers on a scrap of hide. But I'll tell you something, every single one of them, wherever they are, whatever they look like, whatever words they speak, they all faced winter, they all faced the cold trying to kill them, and they all found a way to live. She looks at you, and her eyes are serious now. That's what people do. We find a way. We look at the problem and we look at what we have and we figure it out. Your great-great-grandmother did it. Her grandmother did it. Someone, somewhere, tens of thousands of winters ago was the first person to think, what if I dug down? And from that one thought, all of this came. She gestures around the lodge. Never forget that. The world is full of people who are smarter than you, tougher than you, more creative than you, but you come from a line that survived. Every ancestor you have made it through, made it long enough to have children, to teach those children, to pass something down. You're here because thousands of people before you refused to die. The words settle into you, heavy but not crushing, a weight you can carry. When spring comes, you say, can you teach me more about the other peoples? Grandmother nods. When spring comes, I'll teach you everything I know, and then you'll learn more on your own. You'll meet traders, you'll hear stories, maybe someday you'll travel, like my grandmother did. See things I've never seen. She picks up her sewing again. But for now, we wait. We learn what we can learn here. We practice. We get ready. Ready for what? She smiles. For whatever comes next. The afternoon stretches on. Your mother comes to check on you, runs her fingers through your hair, asks to see your stitching. She nods at the work. Not praise exactly, but not criticism either. Acceptable. Good enough. Your father returns as the light starts to fade. He's got a fox this time, caught in a snare near the river. The fur is thick and red, winter coat at its best. Your aunt takes it, already planning. Fox fur makes good trim, warm around the face, around the wrists. Keeps the wind out. The fox itself will be eaten. Nothing wasted. You help with dinner, peeling wild turnips from the storage pit, dropping them into the pot with water and dried meat. The smell fills the lodge as it cooks. Earthy, familiar. You think about the people in their pit houses, 6 feet down, climbing through smoke to reach their families. You think about the cliff people, living in stone, pulling up their ladders against the world, everyone finding a way. The pot bubbles, the fire burns, the lodge holds its warmth. Outside, the stars are coming out. You can't see them from in here, but you know they're there. The same stars that shine on the pit houses, the same stars that shine on the cliff dwellings, the same stars that have watched over every person who ever dug into the earth and survived another winter. Grandmother catches your eye across the fire. What are you thinking about? All the people, you say. Everywhere, all at once, all of them trying to stay warm. She nods slowly. It's a lot to hold in your head. Yeah, don't try to hold it all. Just hold your peace, your lodge, your family, your fire. That's enough. That's what matters. She's right. You know she's right, but still, somewhere in your mind, you're climbing down a notched ladder into darkness. You're walking along a cliff ledge with nothing below. You're meeting people you'll never actually meet, learning things you'll never actually learn. The world is bigger than this lodge. But this lodge is enough. Your mother calls everyone to eat. You find your spot, take your bowl, let the warmth of the stew spread through you. Tomorrow there will be more lessons, more stories, more practice with the needle and thread. Tonight there is food and fire and family, that's all you need. The cold doesn't bite as hard today. You can tell before you even reach the entrance tunnel. The light coming in is softer, warmer. When your father came back from checking traps this morning, his beard wasn't crusted with ice the way it usually is. Good day to walk, your mother says. She's wrapping your brother in furs, preparing him for the cold. I'm going to visit Singing Bird. You should come. Singing Bird is your mother's cousin. She lives in another lodge on the far side of the village. You've been there before, in summer, but never in winter. The thought of going outside, really outside, not just to the tunnel mouth and back, makes your heart beat faster. Can I? Your mother smiles. Get your robe. You grab the bison hide, the thick one with the fur still on, and wrap it around yourself. Your grandmother is watching from her spot by the fire. Learn something, she says. You nod. You always learn something. The tunnel feels longer today. Maybe because you're excited. Maybe because you know what's waiting at the end. Your mother goes first, your brother bundled against her chest. You follow, crouching, hands against the cold, packed earth. And then you're out. The world hits you like a slap. White. Everywhere white. The snow reflects the sun so bright it stabs your eyes. You have to squint, almost close them completely, and even then the light gets through. Your grandmother warned you about this. Snow blindness, she called it. Spend too long out here without protection and you'll be stumbling around like a newborn calf. The paths between lodges have been dug deep. Trenches, really, with walls of snow on either side, taller than your head. You walk between them like walking through a canyon. The snow is so close you could reach out and touch it. And the cold, even on a good day, it finds you immediately. Crawls up under your robe, finds the gaps at your wrists, your neck. Your cheeks start to sting. Your nose runs, and when you wipe it, the snot freezes on your mittens. This is what the lodge protects you from. This is why your grandmother's grandmother figured out how to dig into the earth, because this cold doesn't play. It doesn't negotiate. It just takes and takes and takes until there's nothing left. Your mother walks fast. You hurry to keep up. Other people are out too. You pass a man carrying wood, his arms shaking under the weight. Another hauling something wrapped in hide, breath coming in hard puffs. Everyone moves with purpose, nobody lingers. The cold doesn't allow lingering. Mother, you say, what happens if someone falls out here, in the snow? She doesn't slow down. They yell, someone comes, we don't leave people in the cold. What if nobody hears? She glances back at you, and something flickers in her eyes. Then they die. That's why we dig the paths deep. That's why we check on each other. That's why we listen. You file that away. The cold kills. The village saves. One without the other means death. At the centre of the village, the paths open up into the plaza, a cleared space, maybe 100 feet across, surrounded by lodges on all sides. In summer, it would be packed earth, good for games and gatherings. Now it's snow, carved through with paths like the strands of a spider's web. And at the centre, something rises from the white. A post. Cedar, you think. Taller than a man, carved with symbols you don't recognise. Around its base, offerings are piled despite the snow. Feathers, bundles of dried plants, small pouches that might hold tobacco or sacred herbs. What is that? Your mother pauses. The cedar post. It marks the centre of the village, the centre of everything. Why? Because that's where Lone Man walked when the world was flooded. He built a wall of cedar to hold back the water and save our people. The post remembers him. You stare at it, just a post, wood standing in snow, but somehow, knowing the story, it looks different. More solid, more important. Your mother starts walking again and you tear your eyes away. That's when you hear it. A cry. Not words, just sound. Coming from somewhere ahead, muffled by the snow walls. Your mother stops. Her head snaps toward the sound. "Stay close," she says, and moves fast. You follow, half running to keep up. The trenched path curves around a lodge, and then you see them. 2 women, one of them on her knees in the snow. The other is trying to pull her up. The kneeling woman is old, her face grey, her body shaking. "She slipped," the standing woman says, voice tight with fear. "She can't get up. Her leg." Your mother hands you the bundle with your brother in it. Hold him. Don't move. She kneels beside the old woman, talking low, hands moving over the injured leg. The old woman whimpers. Her lips are turning blue. "We need to get her inside," your mother says. "Now. She's too cold." The standing woman looks around, desperate. "The lodge is too far. She can't walk." "Then we carry her." Your mother looks at you, at the baby in your arms, at the distance to the nearest tunnel entrance. "Little Fawn. See that lodge? The one with the red mark by the tunnel?" You look. It's close, maybe 30 steps. "Go, tell them we need help. A woman is hurt. Go now." You don't hesitate. You run. The snow is deeper than you expected between the main path and the lodge entrance. It comes up past your knees. Your brother wakes and starts crying, startled by the movement. You push through anyway, legs burning, lungs aching from the cold air. The tunnel entrance is dark. You duck inside, still clutching your brother, and scramble down into warmth. "Help!" Your voice cracks. "There's someone hurt. In the plaza. She fell." Faces turn toward you. A man, a woman, children. The man is already moving, grabbing a robe, pushing past you toward the tunnel. "Show me," he says. You lead him back out. The cold hits again, worse this time because you'd forgotten it for those few seconds inside. By the time you reach the plaza, more people have gathered. The old woman is being carried now, 4 people holding her, moving fast toward the nearest lodge. Your mother sees you and takes your brother back. Her face is pale but calm. "You did good," she says. The old woman disappears into a tunnel entrance. Someone is already running toward the medicine lodge, probably to get the healer. The village is moving, responding, doing what it does. Nobody is left alone in the cold. Your mother takes your hand. It's shaking. You didn't notice until now. "She'll be okay," your mother says. "Her leg is hurt, but she's warm now. That's what matters." You nod. Your heart is still pounding. "Let's go see Singing Bird," your mother says. "We all need to warm up." Singing Bird's lodge is smaller than yours, maybe 40 feet across instead of 60. When you enter through the tunnel and emerge into the main space, the differences hit you immediately. The sleeping platforms are arranged closer to the centre. The storage pits are in different places. The smell is different. Still smoke and earth, but mixed with something else. Herbs, maybe. Something sweet. Singing Bird is waiting near the fire. She's older than your mother, her hair streaked with grey, her face lined from years of smiling. She hugs your mother, makes faces at your brother until he laughs and then looks at you. You look like you've seen something. Your mother tells her about the old woman, about you running for help, about the whole thing. Singing Bird's face goes serious. "That was Grey Owl's mother," she says. "She's been having trouble with that leg all winter. Stubborn woman. Won't stay inside when she should. Will she be okay?" Singing Bird shrugs. "The healer is good. The village will take care of her. Whether she's okay depends on how bad the break is, and whether she's smart enough to rest." She turns to you, really looks at you. "You ran for help. Mother told me to." You ran through deep snow carrying a baby to get help for a stranger. That's not nothing. You don't know what to say. It didn't feel like a choice. It felt like the only thing to do. Singing bird pats the ground beside her. Sit, warm up. You've earned some tea. You settle near the fire. The warmth is immediate, washing over you, chasing away the chill that crept in during the walk. Your hands are still shaking a little. You hold them toward the flames. This is what the village is, Singing Bird says, pouring hot tea into a bowl. What you did today, what your mother did, what the man who came running did, we're all pieces of something bigger. She hands you the bowl. The liquid is hot, slightly bitter, made from dried berries and herbs. It spreads through you like a second fire. One person alone in the cold dies, she continues. 2 people have a chance. A whole village, we survive. We've been surviving for longer than anyone can remember. Your mother is nursing your brother, half listening. Singing Bird's voice is low, just for you. Do you know why women own the lodges? You shake your head. Because we're the ones who stay. Men hunt, men fight, men wander, but women stay. We birth the babies, we keep the fires, we hold the knowledge. When a man dies in a hunt, his family survives because the lodge belongs to his wife. She doesn't lose her home. She doesn't have to beg. She has a place. You think about grandmother, about your mother, about Singing Bird herself in this lodge that has been passed down through generations of women. Men are important, Singing Bird says. Don't let anyone tell you different. But the lodge is the heart, and the heart belongs to us. She gestures toward a corner of the room, a small platform raised off the floor covered with objects. Feathers, stones, a skull of some small animal. Things that look ordinary but feel important. The family altar. Every lodge has one, or should. It holds our medicine, our connection to the spirits who protect us. I tend it every day. When I die, my daughter will tend it, and her daughter after her. You look back at your own lodge in your memory. Is there an altar there? You've never noticed one. Grandmother keeps ours, your mother says quietly, behind her sleeping place. She'll show you when you're ready. Of course, grandmother keeps everything important. The afternoon passes slowly. Your brother sleeps in a pile of furs. The women talk about the old woman who fell, about whose husband is drinking too much, about the spring planting that feels so far away. You half listen. Mostly you think about what happened. The cry in the snow. Your mother's calm command. The weight of your brother in your arms as you ran. The man who came without hesitation. The village is alive, not just the people in it, but the thing they make together, the web of care and duty and love that keeps everyone breathing. You couldn't survive alone. Your family couldn't survive alone. It takes all of you working together to make it through. You knew that before, sort of, but you feel it now in a way you didn't before. When it's time to go, the sun is already sinking. The temperature is dropping fast. Your mother wraps your brother tight and nods toward the tunnel. Time to run again, she says. Before we freeze. You stand. Singing Bird catches your arm. Wait! She reaches into a pouch at her belt and pulls out something small, a stone, smooth and black, warm from being near her body. This was my grandmother's, she says. Her mother gave it to her the winter she helped save a stranger who fell in the snow. My grandmother gave it to me when I did the same thing years ago. Now I'm giving it to you. You look at the stone. It's just a stone, but it's not just a stone. It's not magic, Singing Bird says. It doesn't do anything, but it reminds you that you're part of the chain, that people before you did what you did today, that people after you will do it too. She presses it into your palm. Keep it warm. Pass it on someday. When you see someone earn it, your fingers close around the stone. It's warm against your skin. Warm from Singing Bird's body, from her grandmother's body, from all the bodies that have held it before. Thank you, you say. It doesn't feel like enough. Nothing feels like enough. Singing bird smiles. Thank your mother. She raised you right. Now go before you freeze. The walk home is fast and cold. The sun is down, the temperature plunging. You keep up with your mother, the stone clutched in your hand inside your robe. The tunnel to your lodge has never looked so welcoming. You dive into it, grateful, and emerge into warmth. Grandmother is in her usual spot. Her eyes find you immediately. You helped someone today, she says. Not a question. How do you know? News travels. You ran for help when the old woman fell. You nod. The stone in your hand feels heavier now, more real. Singing bird gave me something. You hold out the stone. Grandmother's eyes widen just a little. Ah, she says, that stone. You know it? I know the story. Singing Bird's grandmother was famous for it. She gave it to Singing Bird 40 winters ago. I never thought I'd see it pass on. She reaches out and touches the stone just for a moment. Her fingers are rough and warm. You earned it, she says. Keep it close. You put the stone in the pouch at your waist, next to the bone needle she gave you last week. Small things, ordinary things, gifts from people who want you to survive. The whole village is like that, you realise. Everyone giving everyone else what they need to make it through. Knowledge from grandmothers, luck from cousins, food from hunters, warmth from the earth itself, and now this stone, passed down through generations of women who ran through snow to help strangers. You're part of the chain now. Dinner is corn soup again, stretched thin. The storage pits are getting lower. Less than there was, less than there will need to be. But spring is coming. Somewhere out there, beyond the white and the cold, the days are getting longer. The earth is starting to remember warmth. You curl into your furs after dinner, full enough, warm enough, tired in a good way. Tomorrow there will be more lessons, more practice, more waiting. Tonight you sleep with a smooth black stone pressed against your heart, and you dream of running through snow, of hands reaching out to help, of a village that breathes together like a single living thing. The cold comes back with a vengeance. For a few days after your walk to Singing Bird's lodge, the weather stayed soft, almost gentle for winter. People moved between homes, children played in the trenched paths. There was talk of the worst being over. That talk stopped when the next storm hit. 3 days of wind that screamed like something dying. Snow so thick you couldn't see the entrance tunnel from inside the lodge. The temperature dropped so low that the water in the pot near the door froze solid overnight, even with the fire burning. Your father tried to go out the first morning. He made it 10 steps from the tunnel mouth before turning back. Can't see, he said, ice already forming on his eyebrows. Can't breathe. So you wait, everyone waits. The fire burns low because wood is running short and there's no way to get more. Your mother rations the food more carefully than before. Half portions, then less than half. On the second day, your brother cries from hunger. Your mother feeds him first, gives him her portion, pretends she's not hungry. You see it. You don't say anything. On the third day, the storm breaks. The sun comes out, weak and pale, and the men dig out the tunnel and go looking for wood. They come back with barely enough to last another week, and then the real truth becomes clear. The storage pits are almost empty. You knew they were getting low. You've watched your mother dipping into them every day, coming up with less and less, but you didn't understand how bad it was until you see her face when she comes back from the deepest pit, the one that held the pemmican, the emergency food. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. That night, dinner is thin broth. Water with a handful of dried corn boiled until it falls apart. Enough to wet your stomach, not enough to fill it. You go to bed hungry, really hungry, not the kind of hungry where you wish you had more, the kind where your stomach cramps and twists and keeps you awake. In the darkness, you hear your grandmother stirring, the rustle of furs, the soft sound of her moving closer to the fire. You get up and join her. She's sitting with her back to the flames, staring into the shadows on the far wall. Her face looks older in the firelight. More lines, more years. "Can't sleep?" she asks. You shake your head. "Hungry?" You nod. She reaches into a pouch at her waist and pulls out something small, a strip of dried meat, no bigger than your finger. Where she got it, you don't know. Maybe she's been hiding it, saving it. "Eat slow," she says, pressing it into your hand. "Make it last." You tear off a tiny piece with your teeth and let it sit on your tongue. The taste of salt and fat and something smoky. You want to swallow it all at once. You don't. "Grandmother," you say when the meat is half gone. "Are we going to die?" She doesn't answer right away. Most adults would rush to reassure you, tell you everything is fine. She doesn't. "Maybe," she says. "Probably not, but maybe. It should scare you." Somehow it doesn't. Somehow the honesty is better than lies. "Has it been this bad before?" She lets out a long breath. "Once. When I was a little older than you, 12 summers maybe. That winter was worse." You finish the meat and lick your fingers, trying to catch every trace of fat. "What happened?" Grandmother shifts, settling into storytelling position. But this isn't going to be a coyote tale. You can tell from her voice. This is something else. "The buffalo didn't come that year. Nobody knows why. Sometimes they don't. They have their own reasons, their own paths. We sent scouts to find them, and the scouts came back with nothing. Empty plains for days in every direction." She pauses. "By the time we knew they weren't coming, it was too late. We'd eaten through our summer stores expecting the fall hunt to fill them back up, and then the hunt brought nothing. A few deer, some rabbits. Not nearly enough." The fire crackles. Somewhere across the lodge, someone coughs in their sleep. "The first moon wasn't so bad. We tightened our belts, ate less, thought it would be enough. The second moon, people started getting sick, not from disease, from hunger. The kind of sick where your body starts eating itself because there's nothing else. You try to imagine it. You can't. By the third moon, people were eating bark, boiling leather to make broth, digging through the snow for roots that had been frozen since autumn." She shakes her head. "Things you wouldn't believe you could eat, we ate. Things that would make you sick if you had any other choice." Did everyone survive? The question hangs there. You already know the answer. No. Her voice is quiet now, almost a whisper. "My sister, my older sister, she was 16, she gave her food to the younger ones, to me, said she wasn't hungry, said she'd eaten already. She lied. Your throat tightens. By the time we realized how sick she was, it was too late. She died on the coldest night of the year. We couldn't even bury her properly. The ground was frozen solid. We wrapped her in hides and kept her in the snow until spring, when the earth was soft enough to dig. You don't know what to say. There's nothing to say." I was angry for a long time after that. Angry at the buffalo for not coming. Angry at my parents for not stopping her. Angry at myself for taking the food she gave me. Grandmother looks at you and her eyes are wet but not spilling over. It took years to understand that she made a choice. She chose us. She chose life even if it wasn't her own. The fire pops. You jump. "That's why I hide food," Grandmother says. "That's why I always know exactly how much is left and how long it will last, because I never want to be surprised again. I never want to watch someone I love starve because I wasn't paying attention. The piece of meat she gave you feels different now, heavier. You understand the gift it was. Are we going to make it this time?" She nods slowly. "I think so. We're low, but not empty. The men will find game when the weather clears. Other lodges will share if we need them to, and we'll share with them. That's how it works. And if the buffalo don't come next year either, then we'll figure it out. We always do. That's what people do." She puts her arm around you, and you lean into her warmth. The hunger is still there, gnawing at your belly, but something else is there too, something that feels like strength. Go back to sleep, she says. Tomorrow will be better. You're not sure you believe her, but you go anyway. The next day, word spreads through the village. Running Elk, an old man 3 lodges over, is dying, not from hunger, from something in his chest, a sickness that started as a cough and turned into something worse. His breath rattles like stones in a dry gourd. He can't eat, can't drink, can barely speak. His family has called for the healer. You don't see the healer come. You don't see the ceremonies that happen inside Running Elk's lodge, but you hear about them. Everyone does. The drums, the singing, the smoke from sacred herbs billowing out of the tunnel entrance. Your grandmother goes to help. She comes back hours later, looking tired but calm. Will he live? Your mother asks. Grandmother shrugs. That's not for us to decide. We did what we could. The spirits will do the rest. That night, your father returns from hunting with a rabbit. 1 rabbit for the whole family. But it's something. It's more than nothing. He's been gone since before dawn, walked 5 miles through snow up to his knees, checked every snare, every trap, every spot where game might shelter. 1 rabbit, that's all the land gave up. He doesn't complain. He never complains. He just hands the rabbit to your mother and goes to sit by the fire, his hands shaking from cold, his face raw from wind. Your mother gets to work. She doesn't waste a single scrap. The meat goes in the pot, the bones go in the pot, the fat, the sinew, the organs, everything. She scrapes the hide and sets it aside. Even that will be useful later. Nothing is thrown away. She adds the last of the wild turnips, the ones that have been sitting at the bottom of the storage pit for months, wrinkled and soft but still edible, seasons the stew with dried herbs that make everything taste like summer, like sunshine, like hope. The smell fills the lodge. Your mouth waters so hard it almost hurts. When the stew is ready, she portions it carefully, equal shares for everyone. Your brother gets a little extra because he's young and needs to grow. Nobody argues. It's not enough. It's never enough, but it's warm and real and fills your belly for the first time in days. You can feel your body grabbing onto every bit of nourishment, hoarding it, using it, and then something happens that you don't expect. A knock on the tunnel entrance. Your father goes to check. He comes back with a bundle wrapped in hide, heavy. From Singing Bird, he says. She says they have extra. Inside the bundle, dried corn, half a bladder of sunflower seed oil, a handful of pemmican cakes, extra. They don't have extra. Nobody has extra right now. Every lodge in the village is counting their stores, measuring out portions, hoping they'll last. But Singing Bird sent food anyway, took from her own family's mouths to fill yours. Your mother starts crying, quiet tears that she wipes away quickly. Your father pretends not to notice. We'll repay them, your mother says, her voice thick. When spring comes, when the hunt is good, triple what they gave, more. Of course, your father says. That's how it works. That's how it works. You've heard that phrase a dozen times now. It's starting to mean something. It means that nobody keeps score. Not really. It means that when someone is low, others lift them up. It means that someday, years from now, maybe you'll be the one with extra and you'll remember this moment and you'll give without expecting anything back. The food from Singing Bird lasts 3 days, stretched thin, mixed with what little you had left, but still, 3 days of not being quite so hungry. Then another gift arrives, this time from a lodge on the far side of the village, a family you barely know. An old woman with a crooked back. Her daughter, her daughter's husband. They've heard about your situation. Word travels fast in a village where everyone's survival depends on everyone else. A handful of dried squash and a small pot of rendered fat. Not much, but enough. enough to keep going. Your grandmother goes out the next day and returns with nothing, but you see her leaving, and you see what she's carrying, the last of her hidden stores, going to someone who needs it more. That's how it works. Running elk dies on a night when the wind is still and the stars are bright. You hear the wailing before dawn, the sound of grief, raw and ragged, cutting through the cold air. His wife, his daughters, his grandchildren. The sound rises and falls like waves, like wind, like something too big to hold inside a body. The whole village mourns. Not because everyone loved him, though many did, because death in winter reminds everyone how thin the line is, how easily any of you could be next. People leave offerings at the cedar post. Tobacco, feathers, small pouches of precious food that could have fed the living but are given instead to honour the dead. Prayers are said in voices rough with cold and grief. Songs are sung, old songs, songs that have been sung for so many generations that nobody remembers who first sang them. His body is prepared by the women of his lodge, washed, dressed in his best clothes, wrapped in hides and blankets, then carried to a scaffold outside the village, poles lashed together, platform built high enough that the animals can't reach it. He'll stay there until spring, frozen and waiting, until the ground thaws enough for burial. You didn't know him well. He was an old man who sometimes smiled at you when you passed his lodge. Once last summer he gave you a piece of honeycomb from a wild hive he'd found. You remember the sweetness, the surprise, his crooked grin. Now he's gone, and his death feels close, closer than you expected. People die. You knew that, but knowing it and feeling it are different things. That night you sit with your grandmother again. The fire is low but steady. Everyone else is asleep. I saw Running Elk's wife today, you say. She looked so sad. Grandmother nods. She'll be sad for a long time. That's what love costs. Is it worth it, loving people, if it hurts so much when they go? She looks at you for a long moment. What do you think? You think about your mother, your father, your brother, your grandmother, singing bird with her smooth black stone, the whole village, sharing and caring and keeping each other alive. Yes, you say, it's worth it. Then you already know the answer. She stirs the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiralling upward. Life is hard. Winter is hard. People leave, one way or another. But the leaving wouldn't hurt if the having wasn't precious. The grief is proof that we loved, that we lived. You let that settle into you. When my sister died, grandmother says, I thought I would never stop hurting. The pain was so big I couldn't imagine it getting smaller, but it did, slowly. It never went away completely. It's still there, all these years later, but it became something I could carry instead of something that crushed me. How? Time, and living, and finding new people to love, even knowing I might lose them too. She looks at you, and her face softens. You, your mother, your brother, every new person I love is a risk, but I take it anyway, because the alternative is being alone, and being alone in winter is the fastest way to die. You think about the lodges, the tunnels, the 4 posts holding up the roof like the pillars holding up the sky. Nobody survives alone. That's not just a fact about food or warmth. It's a fact about something deeper, something in the heart. I'm scared, you admit, about the food, about the cold, about everything. Good, grandmother says. You blink at her. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Fear makes you careful. Fear makes you pay attention. She pokes the fire again. The trick is not to let it freeze you. Feel the fear. Then do what needs to be done anyway. You nod slowly. Now go to sleep. Tomorrow the men are hunting again. Maybe they'll find something, maybe they won't. Either way, we'll deal with it. You go back to your furs. The hunger is still there, duller now, almost familiar. The cold is still there, held back by earth and fire, but never quite gone. But something else is there too. A small hard kernel of something that might be hope. Outside, the stars wheel overhead, the same stars that have watched over 100,000 winters, the same stars that will watch over 100,000 more. Under them, wrapped in earth and furs and the love of people who would give their last food to keep you alive, you sleep. And somehow, despite everything, you feel safe. Something is changing. You notice it first in the light. The sun stays up longer now, not by much, maybe the length of time it takes to eat a meal, but longer. When you wake, there's already a faint glow coming through the smoke hole. When you go to sleep, the sky outside hasn't been dark for as long. The cold is still brutal, the snow is still deep, winter hasn't let go, but something is shifting. You can feel it in your bones. The days are growing, Grandmother says one morning, confirming what you already sensed. The sun is climbing higher, staying longer. She's working on something near the fire, a new basket woven from willow branches she's been soaking to make them flexible. Her hands move without looking, the pattern so familiar she could do it blind. How much longer until spring? A moon, maybe a little more, depends on how stubborn winter wants to be this year. A moon, 30 more days, give or take. You can survive 30 more days. You've already survived so many. The food situation has stabilised. Not good, but not desperate either. Your father and the other hunters have been finding more game as the weather settles. Rabbits, mostly. A deer last week, shared across 3 lodges. The gifts from Singing Bird and the others have slowed because everyone needs what they have, but they've also slowed because you don't need them as badly. You'll make it, you know that now. Barring disaster, barring sickness, barring another brutal storm, you'll make it. But you're different than you were when winter started. You can see it in your mother's eyes when she looks at you. Something has changed in your face. Not older, exactly. More solid, like winter carved away the softness and left something harder underneath. Your hands are different too. Rougher, stronger. The needle doesn't slip like it used to. The stitches come even and tight. Grandmother hasn't corrected your work in weeks. Grandmother, you say, when spring comes, will you teach me to build? She looks up from her basket. Build what? A lodge. You said I could help with my cousin's lodge, but I want to understand it, really understand, not just carry dirt and weave willow. I want to know why everything works. I want to know what you know. She sets down the basket, studies you with those eyes that see everything. That's a big thing to ask. I know. It takes years, a lifetime, really. You never stop learning. I know. She's quiet for a long moment. The fire crackles. Your brother babbles at something only he can see. Your mother and aunt are on the other side of the lodge, sorting through what's left in the storage pits, voices low. Come here, Grandmother says finally. Sit with me. You move closer. She picks up a stick and clears a space in the ash near the fire. You want to know what I know. But do you understand what that means? What you're really asking for? You hesitate. You thought you did. Now you're not sure. Grandmother draws a line in the ash, then another line connected to it, then another. This is knowledge, she says. Not the knowing itself, the way it moves, the way it passes. She points to the first line. Someone, a long time ago, figured out that digging into the earth made you warmer. Maybe she was hiding from something. Maybe she fell into a hole and noticed it was warm down there. Maybe she was watching an animal burrow and thought, why not me? She points to the second line. She told her daughter. Her daughter told her daughter. Each one added a little. Deeper, wider, a roof. A fire pit, the entrance tunnel. Each generation handed down what they knew and added what they learned. More lines, spreading outward like branches on a tree. By the time it reached me, thousands of people had touched this knowledge, shaped it, improved it, lost pieces of it sometimes, found them again other times. I didn't invent anything. I'm just holding what was given to me. She looks at you and her face is serious. When you ask me to teach you, you're asking to become part of this, a link in a chain that stretches back further than anyone can see. You're asking to carry something that doesn't belong to you, that belongs to everyone who came before and everyone who comes after. The weight of that settles over you, heavy, but not crushing. I want to, you say. I want to be part of it. Grandmother nods slowly. I know you do. I've been watching you all winter, the way you listen, the way you ask questions, the way you helped that woman in the snow. She reaches out and takes your hands in hers. Her fingers are rough, scarred, strong. These hands will build lodges someday. They'll teach other hands. They'll pass on everything I give you and everything you figure out on your own. She squeezes gently. But you have to understand something first. What? You will fail. You blink. That's not what you expected. You will forget things. You will teach things wrong. You will make mistakes that cost people. That's not a maybe. That's a certainty. Her grip tightens. The question isn't whether you'll fail. The question is what you do after, whether you keep going, whether you fix what you can and forgive yourself for what you can't, whether you stay part of the chain even when you feel like you've broken it. You swallow hard. Did you ever fail? She laughs. It's not a happy sound. Oh, child, so many times. She lets go of your hands and stares into the fire. The winter I was 20, I was helping my mother build a lodge for a young couple just married. I was supposed to check the posts before we started the roof. Make sure they were solid, seated right. She pauses. I didn't check one of them. I was tired. I was thinking about a boy I liked. I just didn't check. The fire crackles. The lodge collapsed that spring. Nobody died, thank the spirits. But the woman inside broke her arm. The baby she was carrying came early and didn't survive. Your stomach drops. It was my fault. I knew it was my fault. Everyone knew it was my fault, even though nobody said so. I wanted to die. I wanted to walk into the snow and never come back. She looks at you, and her eyes are wet. My mother found me at the edge of the village that night, sitting in the cold, crying. She didn't yell at me, didn't tell me I was stupid. She just sat down beside me and said, "Now you know." Know what? That this matters, that every post, every beam, every stitch of willow could be the difference between life and death, that when you carry knowledge, you carry responsibility, and that carrying responsibility means sometimes you'll drop it. She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. She made me help rebuild the lodge, made me check every post myself 3 times each, made me look that woman in the eye and apologize, and then she made me keep building, keep teaching, keep being part of the chain, even though I'd proven I could fail. You don't know what to say. Grandmother has never talked like this before, never shown you the cracks in her strength. That baby would be older than your mother now, Grandmother says quietly. If it had lived, I think about that sometimes, what they would have become, what they would have built, what knowledge they would have carried. She takes a deep breath. But I also think about the lodges I've built since then. Dozens of them, and the people who lived in those lodges, who raised children in those lodges, who survived winters because I didn't walk into the snow that night. She looks at you again. That's what it means to carry knowledge, the weight of what you might lose, and the weight of what you might save, both at once. Forever, the lodge is quiet. Even your brother has stopped babbling. I still want to learn, you say. Your voice comes out smaller than you expected. Grandmother smiles. It's a real smile, warm and sad and proud all at once. I know, that's why I told you, because you need to understand what you're taking on, not just the how of it, the weight of it. She picks up her basket again, starts weaving. When spring comes, we'll start. Your cousin's lodge will be your first. You'll carry dirt and weave willow and do all the things you said you didn't want to do, because that's how you learn, from the ground up, one piece at a time. And then you'll do it again. And again, and somewhere along the way, you'll start to understand. Not because I told you, but because your hands figured it out, because your body learned what your mind couldn't. She glances at you sideways. You'll still fail sometimes, everyone does, but you'll also succeed, and the successes will outweigh the failures if you keep going long enough. The fire burns low. Your mother comes over to add more wood. She looks at you, at grandmother, seems to sense something important has happened but doesn't ask. That night, grandmother tells one more story. Not a coyote tale, not a creation myth, something different. There was a woman, she says, her voice low and steady, who lived alone at the edge of a village far from here. She had outlived everyone, her husband, her children, her grandchildren. One by one they had all gone into the ground, and she was left. The lodge is quiet, everyone listening. When winter came, the other families offered to take her in, but she refused. She said she wanted to stay in her own lodge, the lodge her grandmother had built, the lodge where she had raised her children and buried her dead. She said if she was going to die, she wanted to die there. Grandmother pauses. The villagers tried to help. They brought her food, wood, company, but she was old and tired and ready to let go. By the deepest part of winter, she had stopped eating, stopped tending the fire, stopped caring whether she lived or died. Your chest tightens. One night, the coldest night of the year, a young woman went to check on her. She found the old woman lying by the dead fire, barely breathing. The lodge was cold as a grave. Snow was starting to drift in through the smoke hole. Grandmother's voice drops to almost a whisper. The young woman didn't know what to do. She was alone. It was too far to get help. The old woman was too heavy to carry, so she did the only thing she could think of. She pauses. She rebuilt the fire. She wrapped the old woman in every blanket and fur she could find, and then she lay down beside her, adding her own body heat to the pile, skin against skin, breath against breath, two people becoming one source of warmth. The fire crackles. The young woman stayed all night. She didn't sleep. She just held the old woman and breathed and willed her own heat into that dying body. She talked to her, even though the old woman couldn't answer, told her about her own grandmother, about the lodges she wanted to build someday, about the children she hoped to have. Grandmother looks around the lodge, at all of you gathered together. In the morning, the old woman opened her eyes. She looked at the young woman and said, "You stayed." And the young woman said, "Of course I stayed. That's what we do." She lets that sit. The old woman lived until spring, saw the snow melt, saw the flowers come up, watched the young woman get married and move into a lodge of her own, died a few weeks later, peaceful, in the sunshine, with that young woman holding her hand. Grandmother's voice steadies. Before she died, the old woman told the young woman everything she knew, every story, every prayer, every technique for building and healing and surviving, things that would have been lost forever if she had died that coldest night, things that are still being taught today, passed down through the generations, because one young woman refused to let an old woman die alone. Nobody speaks. The young woman was my grandmother's grandmother, grandmother says. The old woman had no blood family left, but she had knowledge, and she gave it to someone who was willing to carry it. That's how our line began, not with blood, but with a night in the cold and a refusal to let go. She looks at you. That's what knowledge is. It's not just information, it's love. The old woman loved the young woman enough to give her everything. The young woman loved the old woman enough to stay, and every generation since has loved the next enough to pass it on. You think about the stone in your pouch, about Singing Bird's grandmother who carried it, about all the women before her. When you carry knowledge, grandmother says, you carry love, the love of everyone who gave it to you, the love you'll give to everyone who receives it from you. It's the heaviest thing in the world and the lightest, both at once. She picks up her basket again. Now, enough talking. We still have a moon of winter left. Tomorrow we'll start teaching you the prayers. The ones we say when we raise the centre posts, the ones that thank the trees for giving their lives. You nod. Your throat is tight. Get some sleep. You'll need your strength. You go to your furs, but you don't sleep right away. You lie there, staring at the curved ceiling of the lodge, thinking about the old woman and the young woman, about the night in the cold, about knowledge and love, and the weight of carrying both. Outside, you can hear the faint sound of water dripping. The snow is starting to melt, just a little, just enough to notice. Spring is coming. And when it comes, you'll be ready, not just to survive the thaw, to become what grandmother is, what her mother was, what all those women stretching back into the mist of time were, a keeper of knowledge, a carrier of love, a link in a chain that will stretch forward into a future you'll never see, holding the weight of everyone who came before. You close your eyes. The stone from Singing Bird is warm against your chest. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you can almost hear them, all the grandmothers, all the daughters, all the women who stayed when they could have walked away, whispering, welcoming you into the chain. Spring doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly, gradually, like someone opening a door inch by inch, letting a little more light through each day. First, the dripping becomes constant, water running down the sides of the lodge, pooling at the base, trickling into channels that carry it away. The snow on the roof is melting, the sun is winning. Then the sounds change. The river, locked under ice for so long, starts to groan and crack. One morning you wake to a noise like thunder, and your father says it's the ice breaking up, moving, the water remembering how to flow. Then the birds come back. You hear them before you see them, calls you haven't heard in months, songs that got silenced when the cold arrived. Now they're returning, filling the air with sound, announcing that the world above is changing. Your grandmother is the first one out that morning. She stands at the mouth of the tunnel for a long time, just looking, breathing, feeling the air on her face. When she comes back inside, her eyes are wet. It's time, she says. The whole lodge stirs. Everyone knows what she means. It's time to go up, time to see what's left of the world after winter tried to take it away. You help your mother bundle your brother into his carrying wrap. You put on your lightest robe, the one you haven't worn since autumn. It feels strange, too thin, but the air doesn't bite the way it used to. The tunnel seems shorter now. Maybe it is shorter. The packed snow that narrowed it has melted back. You can almost walk upright. And then you're out. The light hits you like a wall, so bright, so different from the dim glow of the lodge. You have to close your eyes, let them adjust, open them slowly. The village is transformed. The snow is still there, but it's patchy now, ragged, brown earth showing through in places, wet and dark and alive. The trenched paths between lodges have become streams, meltwater running toward the river. The white world you've been living in has turned to mud and water and the promise of green. And the smell. You'd forgotten what the world smelled like when it wasn't frozen. Now it hits you all at once. Wet earth, rotting leaves, the river, freed from ice, carrying the scent of fish and minerals and movement. The first hint of something growing, roots pushing up from below, answering the call of warmth. The sky seems bigger out here. For months, you've seen it only through the smoke hole, a small circle of grey or blue or star-speckled black. Now it stretches from horizon to horizon, pale blue with thin clouds, the sun climbing higher than you've seen it in half a year. The cedar post in the plaza stands bare, the offerings around its base soggy and wilted but still present. Someone has already been there this morning. Fresh tobacco sits on top of the pile, someone giving thanks for making it through, someone remembering those who didn't. You breathe deep. Your lungs feel different. The air is softer somehow. It doesn't fight you the way winter air fought you, doesn't try to steal the warmth from your chest with every breath. This air wants to be breathed. It welcomes you. Your grandmother comes to stand beside you. Every year, she says quietly, I forget how it feels. And every year, it surprises me. You nod. You don't have words for it either. People are emerging from lodges all across the village, squinting in the light, stretching muscles that haven't moved freely in months. Children run past, shrieking, splashing through puddles, throwing handfuls of slush at each other. Life, everywhere you look, life. Your father walks toward the river to check on the fishing spots. Your mother takes your brother to visit one of her friends, both of them eager to catch up after the long separation. Your aunt starts sorting through supplies, figuring out what needs to be repaired after the winter. You stay with your grandmother. The two of you walk slowly around the village, not going anywhere in particular, just walking, seeing, feeling the sun on your faces. The lodges look different from outside, more like hills than ever now, with grass starting to poke up through the sod. Soon they'll disappear into the landscape completely, just gentle mounds with smoke rising from their peaks. You could walk right over them without knowing people were living inside. You think about what you know now that you didn't know when winter started, how the 4 posts hold everything up, how the tunnel controls the cold air, how the fire creates the draft that pulls fresh oxygen in and pushes smoke out, how the storage pits keep food safe underground, where the temperature never changes. It all seemed so mysterious before. Now it makes sense. Every piece fits with every other piece. The whole system works together, each part supporting the others. Nothing wasted, nothing extra, and none of it was obvious. Someone had to figure out each part. Someone had to try things that didn't work before finding things that did. Someone had to pay attention to what the Earth was already doing and find a way to use it. You look at your grandmother walking beside you, and you see her differently now too, not just as grandmother, as a carrier of knowledge, a holder of wisdom that took thousands of years to accumulate. Every story she tells, every lesson she teaches, every correction she gives, it all comes from somewhere, from someone, from the long chain of people who refuse to let winter win. It worked, you say. Grandmother glances at you. The lodge, the tunnel, the fire, the storage pits, all of it. We made it through. She nods slowly. We did. Was it luck, or was it the way we built things? She considers the question. You've learned by now that she always takes questions seriously, always thinks before answering. Both, she says finally. The lodge gave us a chance, a good chance, but things can still go wrong. Storms that last too long, disease that spreads too fast, accidents. You can do everything right and still lose. She looks out across the village at all the other lodges, all the other families who also made it through. We were lucky this year, lucky and prepared. The preparation is what we control. The luck is what we hope for. You walk past Running Elk's lodge. His scaffold is still visible on the edge of the village, the wrapped body waiting for burial now that the ground is soft enough to dig. His widow is outside, sitting in the sun, her face peaceful in a way it hasn't been for weeks. "She'll be okay," grandmother says, following your gaze. "The village will take care of her. That's what we do." You keep walking, past the medicine lodge, past Singing Bird's place, past the homes of people you know and people you only know by sight. At the edge of the village, where the lodges give way to open prairie, you stop. The land stretches out forever, brown and grey and patched with the snow, but also tinged with green in places. The grass is coming back, the world is waking up. "You did well this winter," grandmother says. You look at her. She's not one for compliments. This means something. "I learned a lot." You did, and you'll learn more. But the hardest lessons are behind you now. You know what it means to be cold, to be hungry, to be scared and keep going anyway. Those lessons don't come from teaching, they come from living through it. A bird calls overhead. Some kind of hawk, circling, looking for prey that's finally starting to move again. "Next winter will be easier," grandmother continues, "not because winter will be gentler, but because you'll be stronger. You'll know what to expect. You'll remember what you felt and what you did and what worked. And I can teach someone else." Grandmother's face softens. "Yes, someday, when you're ready. You'll teach your daughters the way I taught your mother, the way my mother taught me. The chain will continue." You stand there for a while, the sun warm on your face, the earth soft under your feet. Somewhere deep down you can feel it, the ground that held you all winter, the soil that stayed steady while the air went mad with cold. It's still there, still warm, still waiting. If you dug down right now, you'd find that constant temperature, that quiet heat that doesn't care about seasons. The earth is patient, it doesn't fight winter, it just outlasts it. That's what grandmother taught you, really. Not how to conquer, how to endure, how to work with what the land gives instead of against it, how to be part of something instead of apart from it. The ancestors who first figured this out thousands of years ago, they weren't geniuses in the way people usually mean. They were observers, noticers. They paid attention to what the earth was already doing and found a way to join in. Every lodge in the village is a partnership, half built by hands, half given by the ground. The cottonwood posts came from trees that grew here. The willow branches came from the riverbank. The sod came from the prairie itself. Even the fire is just sunlight, stored in wood, released when needed. Nothing comes from nowhere. Everything is connected. "Grandmother," you say, "thank you." She looks at you with something in her eyes you've never seen before, or maybe you just never noticed. "Thank the earth," she says. "Thank the ones who came before. Thank everyone who figured out one small piece of the puzzle and passed it along. I'm just the one who happened to be here to hand it to you." She puts her arm around your shoulders. "Now, let's go help with the cleanup. Winter made a mess. Spring needs us to fix it." You walk back toward the village together. There's work to do. There's always work to do, repairing the damage the storms caused, clearing away the detritus of months spent inside, preparing the fields for planting, the boats for fishing, the hunting grounds for the summer's bounty. But first, tonight, there will be a gathering, the whole village coming together in the open air for the first time since autumn, food shared, songs sung, stories told about the winter just past, already turning into legend. They build a fire in the plaza, bigger than any fire you've seen all winter. No need to conserve wood now, no need to ration warmth. They pile logs high and let them blaze, and the flames leap toward the stars like they're trying to touch them. People bring what food they have left. The last of the dried corn, a few strips of pemmican. Someone found early greens growing near the river, and they pass around a bowl of them, the first fresh vegetables anyone has tasted in months. The taste explodes in your mouth, bitter and bright and alive. The drums come out, the songs begin, old songs, winter songs, songs that celebrate survival. You know some of the words, you hum along to the ones you don't. Your grandmother sits with the elders, talking in low voices, probably sharing wisdom or gossip or both. Your mother holds your brother on her lap, letting him watch the fire with wide eyes. Your father stands with the other hunters, already planning the first spring hunts, already thinking about the work to come. And you sit with the other children, the ones you barely saw all winter, the ones who survived in their own lodges, learned their own lessons, came through their own versions of the same long wait. You trade stories. Who got scared during the worst storm? Who cried when the food ran low? Who learned something new, made something good, helped someone when it mattered? The winter becomes a shared experience, something that belongs to all of you now, a bond that will last the rest of your lives. When the fire dies down to coals and people start drifting toward their lodges, you stay a little longer. The night air is cool but not cold. The stars are bright, the same stars that watched over you all winter, the same stars that have watched over every winter since the world began. You'll sit with your family around a fire that doesn't need to burn for survival anymore, that burns just for warmth, just for light, just for the pleasure of it. And when you look around at the faces lit by the flames, you'll know something you didn't know when winter started. You belong here, not just in this village, not just with these people, in the long chain of everyone who ever lived, everyone who ever figured out how to survive, everyone who ever passed their knowledge down like a gift wrapped in stories. You are part of the chain now, a link, a keeper of warmth. The lodge will be there when next winter comes. The earth will hold its heat, the fire will burn, the tunnel will channel the cold, the storage pits will hold the food, everything your grandmothers learned, everything they taught, everything they built. It will all be waiting, and you will be ready. The sun is setting over the plains, orange and pink and gold, painting the clouds, turning the last patches of snow into mirrors of colour. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howls. Not a threatening sound, just a coyote doing what coyotes do, announcing itself to the world, saying, "I'm here, I made it through, I'm still alive." You think about all the coyote stories, about greed and foolishness and getting what you deserve, but also about survival, about cleverness, about figuring things out when there's no other choice. The coyote howls again, and somewhere across the hills another one answers. They're talking to each other, reconnecting after the isolation of winter, reminding each other that they're not alone, just like the village, just like you. You watch the sunset for a long moment. Then you turn and follow your grandmother back toward the village, back toward the people who kept you alive, back toward the home that held you safe while the world outside tried to freeze. The ground has kept you alive again, and now, warm in your own bed, far from those frozen plains, you can let go of the story. Let it settle into you like heat sinking into soil. Let it hold you the way the earth held that little girl all those winters ago. The world outside your window might be cold or warm, dark or light. It doesn't matter. You're safe now. You're home. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The crackle of a fire, the murmur of a grandmother's voice, the deep, patient heartbeat of the earth itself, holding its warmth, waiting for you to rest. Close your eyes. The ground will keep you safe. Sleep now.